We'll call to order the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board of Thursday, July 18th, 2024. Present at the front table to my far left is Jessica Vitale, a voting member. Ed McGargy, a voting member. To my left, Ernie Angelos, our solicitor.
Good evening.
To my right, Bill Rhodes, a voting member.
Good evening.
Jesse Poynton, a voting member. We also have Harrison Whalen, the zoning officer, with us, and Jamie Gelosian, Director of Community Development. We have one decision, three new cases, one of which will be continued, but we'll get to that after we do the pledge. Billy, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Please rise if you can. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the decision is case Z24-22, Trinity Lutheran Church of Greater Philadelphia, owner of 560 Mill Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2207-010510, who seeks variances from section 182-106 to permit a monument sign to exceed 4 feet in height. 6 feet is proposed. Section 182-701B7 to construct an animated sign, LED. Section 182-701C1B1 to construct a sign that is larger than 15 square feet. And from section 182-701C3B2 to permit the sign to be illuminated with both direct and indirect light when only one type of lighting may be utilized. Property is owned INS Institutional and located in the 8th Ward. Billy, would you please take that decision?
Sure. With respect to case C24-22, I would vote to deny the requested relief.
Jess?
I agree.
Jesse? Jessica? Ed?
I agree.
And so do I. That application is denied 5-0. Jamie, is the air on? All right. If you guys get hot, tell me. Our first continued, well, let's do the continuance first. With respect to case Z23-17, Sun and Raj Fuel LLC, owners of 700 Haverford Road. I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless somebody specifically requests that I do so. That case, it's been requested, and I'm inclined to grant this continuance. If anyone of the board members wants to discuss it, we should do it now. That case will be continued to our August 15th hearing. So our first continued hearing tonight is Z24-23, the School District of Haverford, owners of 1801 Darby Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2207-0033700, who seeks variances from section 182-802B1 to expand a building with non-conforming use, variance from section 182-602C3 to increase the building coverage from 21.6 to 22% when a maximum of 20% is permitted, a variance from section 182-602C8 to increase the impervious coverage from 67.7% to 67.8% when a maximum of 40% is permitted, and a variance from section 182-707B to permit no increase in the number of parking spaces where the minimum number of spaces required is 247, and there are only 127 existing parking spaces. Property is owned INS Institutional District and located in the 7th Ward. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Joe Clement. I am here representing the applicant, Haverford Township School District. I have with me this evening several individuals, some of whom you know, some are new to you, and a few of whom will testify to provide us with a full record. I would like to, at the pleasure of the board, though, first introduce this project very briefly before we get to my witnesses. This is a proposed approximately 2,500 square foot addition at the middle school, and it's simply to increase the size of the cafeteria. There is not an adequately sized cafeteria by today's standards to accommodate all the middle school students that are there today. This will not result in any more traffic or any more employees at the school, no more trips or deliveries. This is simply a proposal to, as you will see from our exhibits, enclose an existing courtyard that is almost interior to the building as it is today. So there is an exterior space that right now is very underutilized. It did serve a purpose years ago, perhaps when the school was first constructed, but now really does not serve a purpose at all. There are a few picnic tables there, some equipment that cannot be cannot be moved. And the proposal really is to enclose that space, create an expanded cafeteria, and thereby serve the students better. So if I may, I'd like to call my first witness, who will be Dan Horn. He is the principal of the middle school. So, Mr. Horn, I think we should have...
I'll swear him in a second, Joe.
Thanks.
How you doing, Dan?
Good, how are
Raise
you?
your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board this evening?
Sure. My name is Daniel J. Haran, and I am the principal at Haverford Middle School.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Mr. Horan, you stated that you are the principal of Haverford Middle School. How long have you served as the principal?
I've been the principal at Haverford Middle School for 12 years.
Great. And I've handed up to the board, and you have in front of you an exhibit packet, exhibit that I've marked A1. Could you turn to that, please?
Sure.
I know his tab mic.
And if you orient that exhibit with the blue bar, I'll call it at the top, could you just describe for me what that is?
That's an aerial view of the middle school property.
And some of the surrounding homes and what have you as well, correct?
Correct.
So if looking at the, we'll call it the stadium that is surrounded by the track, directly to the left of that is a building. Is that the middle school building?
Yes, it is.
Okay, if we could turn to the next page, please. And could you describe for me what I have marked as A2?
That is an aerial view of the middle school, and it's not the entire middle school, but it's the south end of the building.
And that's the portion of the building that's relevant today, because in the center of that, in kind of a lighter tan color, is the courtyard that I had earlier described.
Correct.
Could you point out for us and describe for us where the cafeteria is relative to that area?
Immediately to the left.
Okay. And as you understand it, what the school district is proposing to do is enclose part of that area for a expansion of the cafeteria.
Correct.
And why is it that we need to expand this cafeteria, in your opinion?
To provide a better climate for our students, which will give them a little bit more space. Right now, currently in our cafeteria, we have 55 tables that sit 10 students each. Some of the tables have fewer seats just for to support some of our needier students. And for one of our lunches, every one of those seats is filled. We have about 550 students in one of our classes, and it's just it's congested, very congested. So not a lot of space, noisy. We'd like to provide a little better climate for our students.
And how many meals do you serve, we'll say breakfast, lunch, dinner, how many meals are served in the cafeteria?
Total meals?
No, I mean
How many
breakfast.
students? We serve 1,600 students in the cafeteria.
And what meals are served?
So we serve, we have a breakfast, we have lunch for our students. Those are the two meals that we serve.
Excellent. And we all know that today nutrition is part and parcel of education. They're integrated fully.
Correct.
How is the courtyard utilized today?
The courtyard is not utilized by any of our students
Okay.
or staff.
And after the expansion of the building, if this board is so inclined to grant the relief that we've requested, would there be any student access to the courtyard after that expansion?
If the expansion happens, we'll be able to utilize that space to seat our students, like spread our students out more, and we'll be able to utilize that space for a large group instruction area.
Any new classrooms proposed?
Not classrooms, but we can use that large group space if needed.
Just a gathering space, cafeteria space?
Right.
Any more employees, staff, teachers?
No new staff, no new teachers.
And as you understand it, no new traffic trips?
Excuse me?
No new traffic?
No.
Okay.
No new traffic.
I don't have any further questions for this witness.
Jess? Hey, Cook?
I don't have any questions for the principal.
Ed?
No, I do not.
Billy?
Can you describe the demographic in the, coming out of the elementary schools? So 1,600 students now, some classes, I think at least one class you said is gone around 550. Which
Correct.
My understanding is that's a relatively big class in recent years. There's been some, but that's not normal, right?
It's actually become normal for us. Every one of our classes for the last few years and projected for the next few years is going to be over 500 students.
Okay.
So 510 to maybe the low end, 560 maybe for the high end.
So when we hear all about the declining number demographically of high school graduates in the Northeast and the Upper Midwest, how has Haverford Township defined that trend?
I don't know how they define that trend, but like we consistently are around 1,600.
And it seems like the relief being sought is relatively de minimis, right? From a percentage point of view of impervious and so forth. But this is not the first time that the school districts come in asking for relief to do work that has provided for more flexibility, more space, some additional classrooms recently at the high school, I guess, right? And we have the same underlying problem in the whole complex there, which is very limited amount of parking.
Correct.
Is there a point in which we should start taking note of the aggregation of these de minimis requests? Because at some point, the whole property will be paved over, right? At some point. How should we think about this? I know it's de minimis today, and it was de minimis last time.
Right.
And it would probably be de minimis the time after that, but when you aggregate them, eventually, it's not de minimis.
Yeah, and I guess for when you're speaking to me about that, I'm thinking about, and I've been at the middle school for 12 years. Right before I came to the middle school is when they had that huge project. That was 12 years ago, and our numbers were significantly different than they are now. So we've grown bigger, and we've consistently stayed bigger. So we need to serve our students. That's, I think, one of our concerns. We have a parking lot, or a parking committee in our school of staff, that teachers and administrators and our security guards. I'm out there every morning checking on parking, and I check to make sure that we do have extra spots for our staff that come in later in the day. We have, at the beginning, middle, and end of the day, we always have at least a minimum of 10 open parking spots. So that's been consistent last year and this year. So for parking, and I know you're talking more about the future, and I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't predict the future, but I know like where we currently are, if we're talking about parking, like we have enough parking spots.
All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Jesse?
Mr. Wren,
Yes, sir.
the existing courtyard, is it fully paved right now? Is there any grass area, any planting area at all?
It's not fully paved right now. There's a section where there's wood chips. If you kind of look at that photo, it's kind of hard to tell, but you can see that concrete ramp area that snakes up, and then
We're on Exhibit A2, right?
Yes,
Okay, for the record.
yes, sir.
Oops, sorry. Got to get it oriented here. So when you're looking at that proposed area, you'll see that concrete area where it's a ramp that snakes up, and to the right of that, you'll see it's actually wood chips with a couple bushes, and then to the north of that, on the other side of the sidewalk, those are just wood chips as well.
But is it predominantly paved? Is that what you would
I
you
would
classify it that way?
I'd say 50% of it.
And you said you testified it's not used at all currently.
Correct.
Is there access to it from a service drive?
So there's access from the parking lot where you see those two white vans.
Yep.
Right, there's a walkway right there, there's a
Okay.
gate, and then you can access it obviously from the building. There's three doors that go to the exterior.
And if the addition were to go forward, would that access still be there for any other, maintenance or anything like that?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And currently, is that area, I assume, goes, and if you don't know the answer to this, you can say you don't know.
Yes,
but
sir.
Is it drained? I assume rainwater is collected in drains and conducted underground?
So if you see that large concrete section right off of the cafeteria, you can actually make out two of the drains.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Right there.
Okay. And then assume that the proposed cafeteria expansion would have drains on the roof of it, and those would then conduct in the same way, similar manner that they do now?
I would expect.
Yeah, okay.
that.
So what I'm getting at is there wouldn't be any massive change in the way that rainwater is handled.
I think I can answer that question for you. There will be a slight change in how it's handled in that there is a land development application that's pending before the board as well. they're running concurrently with this. They were before the Planning Commission, I believe it was last week. There is a small stormwater facility that is proposed with the addition that will collect the stormwater and treat it as required.
And that's all being reviewed by the township engineer.
That's being reviewed by the township engineer and the county.
Great, thank you. No other questions?
So I just have one more question if I
Yes, sir.
could. Currently, does the courtyard provide emergency exits for the school?
There's an exit there, so we could exit the building from there if we wanted to.
And so after you enclose this, I presume it might reduce the light, but does it reduce the ability of people to get out of the building? How does that impact?
So, Mr. Rose, we have the project architect here is probably better suited to answer that question, but the answer is all of that has been addressed, in short. But if you wouldn't mind, I'll have him address that. We'll call him next. Thank you.
I have no questions.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you. Karen?
Hello. Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I
Your
do.
full name and address, the capacity in which you appear, please.
Carolyn Dubois, Dubois, and I'm the project manager with K&W Engineers, and we're the civil engineer for the project.
Thanks, everyone. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Ms. Du Bois, how long have you been employed with K&W Engineers?
4 years.
And how long have you been a design professional and with experience in land development?
40 years.
It's 40 years?
40.
Thank you. And with respect to projects like the one that we have this evening, where there's zoning implications, there's land development pieces, through your 40 years experience, how many roughly projects have you done of that nature?
Probably several hundred. I've been doing land development related projects since day one of my career. So over that 40 years, 1 or 200,
Thank you.
guess.
Mr. Kane, I'd like to have the board recognize Ms. Du Bois as an expert in land development, zoning, and land use.
Want to applaud dear?
Just one quick question. Have you been before a zoning hearing board? You said you.
Of course.
Have you been qualified as an expert before?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert for this board?
Not this
Any other
township.
local boards you can let us know?
Well, I've worked across the state of Pennsylvania over those 40 years, so many. And, most recently, Susquehanna Township near Harrisburg. That would be our most recent one.
Unless there's discussion or any objection from the board members, we'll accept Carolyn as an expert in civil engineering.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Joe.
Ms. Du Bois, are you familiar with the project that we've been discussing here this evening?
Yes,
And are you familiar with the zoning requirements for the property?
yes.
And if you could turn to Exhibit A3, please. Could you just briefly describe for us what that is?
This is an aerial image of the entire site. And if you look what we have outlined in a blue line, that represents the outline of the middle school site. So that's the 10.7 acres, okay? And towards the left side of the site is the middle school. Upper right is a portion of the running track and turf field, and then the lower right portion of the site is open green space. And then you'll see on the plan where we've got, indicated just with a black box, it says project location. That's the area of the addition in the courtyard area.
You could turn to page 2 of that exhibit and just describe for us what that is.
Okay, so this is just a zoomed in version of the page that you just looked at. And again, just a larger view of the courtyard area with the proposed building addition shown in a tan hatch and labeled.
On the right side of that sketch plan or aerial image, there's a zoning data chart. It's very hard to see, but could you just walk us through what that is?
Yeah, I printed it out in a larger version so I can see it better.
Well prepared.
So what this is, we're just, we call it a data chart, where we're just indicating, the various zoning requirements for the institutional district, minimum lot area, lot width, yards, maximum building height, coverage, and impervious coverage. So we say what's required based on the ordinance, what exists, and what's going to be proposed. So the only two items that are affected by this are the two bottom lines. So the maximum building coverage is allowed at 20% maximum. Existing conditions right now is 21.6%. And then with the addition of the 2,500 square foot, it would take, that would take us up to 22%. So an increase in 0.6% of the building coverage. So then for maximum impervious coverage, you are allowed a 40% coverage. And in current conditions, we have 67.7%. And in post-development, it would be 67.8%.
And in your opinion, is there any adverse impact to public health, safety, or welfare as a result of the de minimis increase in building or impervious coverage?
No, but in fact, even though it is de minimis, we did, as he had mentioned, we have a land development under review right now, and we actually attended the planning commission meeting last Thursday. And so that plan is under review. In particular, this project is really, for us, it's largely stormwater management, since we don't have any other site improvements that go along with it. So that minimal increase, even though it's minimal, it's completely handled. So that additional impervious, so there's no additional runoff, water runoff as a result of this project. In fact, it's slightly less than pre-development. Okay, so what we're going to do is have actually an infiltration bed. It will be underground, be covered with grass, but to the right of the plan, if you look at the overall aerial, in that lawn area down towards the street, we're going to do an underground infiltration basin. Will completely handle any of the increase in impervious area. Okay, so have grass over the top of it when it's done, you won't even see it.
Thank you. If we could just turn to parking for one moment. I believe under the ordinance, parking is handled on a per square foot basis. So for every 1,000 square feet of additional building, there would need to be an additional parking space. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right now, there's 127 parking spaces on the site. We're not proposing any additional parking spaces. And do you see any need for additional parking at this time?
No, not with the use of this addition, since there's no increase in students, no increase in staff, no increase of parent traffic. This is really to serve as a dining space. And but anyways, if you did calculate, it would be 3 additional parking spaces. So adding any parking spaces really kind of then compounds the maximum impervious coverage situation.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Right. Yes.
No question.
Billy?
So I don't know if you heard my question before, Carolyn. Just wanted to understand how will there be essentially a reasonable replacement for existing exits into the courtyard for safety purposes? Now that you're going to enclose it, is there egress from this area out to the parking lot?
Actually, there is. If you want to turn back to the overall plan, actually, I take that back. Turn to the enlarged plan, okay? So it's exhibit
That's exhibit A3, page 2.
A3, page 2.
That's it for me.
Yeah, okay.
The courtyard's, even in its existing condition, is not completely closed off from exterior access. Okay, if you look at this, in the upper right corner, there's actually a walkway that goes out to that parking lot to the north of it, and that's going to stay the way that it is, okay? So that's not getting closed off. So this addition does not completely fill in the courtyard. It's just a portion of it, but that egress, so like I said, it's got access from the exterior. Okay, and that does not change.
And Mr. Rhodes, we do have one more witness to call that'll better address that.
That's fine. It's fine. So let me just, this proposed addition, is the sizing of this on page 2 of Exhibit A3 properly to scale so that literally this is a box that's being built that only one side of which will connect to the existing school?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And
on the north side and the east side, it's not gonna, there's gonna be space in between. It won't.
So it'll attach on the south side, but not, isn't the cafeteria on the west side of this proposed square? Maybe I'm wrong.
This proposed building will be directly adjacent to the cafeteria.
Okay. Directly.
Yeah,
adjacent.
it attaches to the existing, I may let
Mr.
him
We do
answer
have-
this.
Yeah, we have the project architect that could probably answer that question best for you.
That's fine. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but I know that it attaches directly to it internally.
Ed?
Yes, on Exhibit 3, we have this blue line that outlines the project. Is this a legal boundary line, or is it an arbitrary boundary line, since the school district owns both the high school property and the middle school?
Yeah, this represents the legal boundary for the middle school site because they are two separate parcels.
Anytime that the high school comes in with a project, their impervious coverage and other building coverage would be only for the area not in the blue square.
Correct.
That's correct.
I was waiting for it out loud.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, they're
Thank you
two,
very
they're
much.
two
That was
separate
all I had.
parcels, yes.
And they're only allowed to use 2/3 of the football field, or 1/3 for the high school. Jessica?
I think I've seen, yeah.
The current courtyard, it appears that the proposed building addition is mostly taking up the space that was previously the ramp. Is that correct?
Yeah, their ramp is going to be completely demolished.
Okay. And what pervious ground are you removing as part of this project? Because in the aerial, it appears that there is
Well,
not
actually-
much impervious. in that
Yeah, we're going to
space.
keep it mulch. The remaining open space will continue to be mulch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, neither do I. Thank you, Caroline.
Sure.
Thank you.
Unless you have anything else, Joe.
No,
No,
thank you. Yeah.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board this evening, please?
Robert Jeffrey Straub with Crabtree Robon Associate Architects. I'm sorry, Straub, S-T-R-A-U-B.
Thank you. So, Jeff, if you could, you've heard a couple of questions from Mr. Rhodes about access, emergency egress. Could you just walk us through how students could get out of this addition?
So the doors that had gone out from the cafeteria existing were really just going to the seating area, and frankly, they hadn't been used for quite some time. We had both our architectural team as well as we have a master code official on staff. There are 3 existing exits within the cafeteria. We actually added a 4th from the one corner of the building just to increase capacity, and working with our code professional on staff, we determined that those exits were not required going out to the outdoor seating area, and really the ramp was there specifically for the outdoor courtyard, which as the principal had mentioned earlier, hadn't been used for years. I would note, along with presenting to you this evening, along with the concurrent planning commission, we also have the the building code review in process as well, which is resolved. Obviously, the egress is incorporated into that component.
Thank you. And could you just describe for us the facade of this building?
It's a combination of stone as well as punched opening windows, as well as curtain wall, large expanses of glass windows.
So you mentioned windows, so on 2 sides of this, there will be windows so that there is daylight getting into the cafeteria expansion?
Correct. Two of the walls will have windows into that space.
And I don't want to have to turn back to it, but if you looked at Exhibit A1, Part 2, you can see that this courtyard is fairly interior to the building. Would that facade even really be viewed from outside of the courtyard?
No, you cannot. No, you cannot see it from the outside.
The roof line of this addition, would that be about the same level as the existing cafeteria roof line, would basically be an extension of that?
Correct. Correct.
I don't think I have any further questions. Mr. Rhodes, if there was something.
Can
Go
I,
ahead, Bill.
yeah, can I just, so have you seen the second page of Exhibit A3?
A3.
Which, and I realize that this is the zoomed in aerial photo, which shows shadows along roughly the east side of the building. But it would look like this proposed building addition, you see that? The box?
Correct.
It looks
Actually-
like it's floating in the middle. It's attached, it looks like it's attached on its southern end to the school, but it's otherwise floating on three sides in the middle of the courtyard. Is it actually against the west side?
So if you go to, I apologize, I was looking this up as people were asking questions. The addition actually attaches technically to the southwest and to the southeast
Jeff,
side of the
before-
building.
Before you get any further there,
I apologize.
you're looking at Exhibit A4, Sheet 7.4, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was about to say that.
And as you described it, the building attaches on both, I'll call it plan left and plan bottom.
Yeah, okay.
Which is correct, which is southwest and southeast.
I just want to make sure, yeah.
And what you're seeing from that other photo was the building is essentially 3 stories, but then it drops down to a 1-story for part of the cafeteria, and then we're extending that roof line out.
Okay, so this is a one-story addition.
Yes.
Correct, sir.
Thanks.
Jessica?
Jeff, is there an elevator in this building?
I apologize, yes, there is an elevator in the
Where
building.
is it located on the plan?
I don't have that on me right this minute. It wasn't in the close proximity of that sector of the building with the cafeteria.
I think, Jeff, put another way, and I believe the question is there an additional elevator going to be installed as
Oh,
No, I'm actually trying to figure out the ramp in the courtyard. Was that previously used to give an accessible entry into the cafeteria, or
No,
does that
it wa-
exist elsewhere?
Sorry, I wanted to wait till you finished. I apologize. No, because the doors actually, working with our code professional, those doors all swung outward, so they did not qualify as an accessible entrance. And that ramp was specifically there for the outdoor courtyard, or courtyard plaza area. And I think what the principal mentioned was there was you saw it very prevalently about 15, 20 years ago, a lot of outdoor plazas, courtyards. The thought was there'd be outdoor classrooms for students, but what happened very often was they were not utilized. That ramp was specifically for that outdoor plaza area that's not used by the students.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions.
Jesse?
I asked before about how the rainwater is conducted. Could you just briefly describe that for the record?
That is, it's completely tied. There are roof drains, which then is tied into the building's stormwater conveyance from the site.
No other questions?
Ed?
No question.
Neither do I.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, ladies.
Wise man. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board this evening?
Yes, my name is Guy DiMartino. I'm a regional leader in transportation planning with Traffic Planning and Design, Inc.
And Mr. Kane, Guy has been many times qualified before this board, and as an expert in traffic, I asked that he be qualified this evening for the same reason.
Okay, unless there's any discussion or objection from my fellow board members, we'll accept Guy as a traffic expert.
Thank you very much. Guy, any traffic impact?
The short answer is
I'd like the direct question.
the short answer is no, as you've heard from a number of witnesses and Mr. Clement. This application will not add any new students, buses, staff. So from a traffic perspective, there will be no added traffic as it relates to this application.
And if we look at Exhibit A5, what I marked as A5, that's your letter. Stand by that opinion still?
Yes, dated May 10th, 2024.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
Okay, questions? Ed?
No question.
Bill?
No questions, thank you.
Jessica? Jesse?
Question.
I have none either.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just in closing, from a technical
And
legal.
Joe, thanks for putting it all on the record, though.
Oh, you're welcome.
That helps make decision's easier.
Thank you.
Not that they'll be positive, but easier.
I appreciate
But
that.
thank you.
Thank you. With that said, just briefly in closing, we really do believe from a technical legal perspective that what we are asking for this evening is de minimis. I do understand the nature of perhaps creeping de minimis requests. However, this request, standing alone, is merely a 0.6% increase in building coverage and a 0.1% increase in impervious coverage, and a request not to add 2 or 3 parking spaces. So we do ask that the board take that under consideration this evening. We are asking, if at all possible, the board to render a verbal decision this evening if it would consider doing so. The reason being is because this is running concurrently with the land development process. And if we are spinning our wheels, we'd like to know that now. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Joe. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify. Anyone present that received regular mail? Any other residents of Haverford Township? Any other questions, board members? Anything you want to add, Joe, before
No,
we
thank
wrap it up? With that, we'll close the record on this case, and the decision will be rendered either this evening if we're able. If not, then at our next regularly scheduled meeting on August 15th. But we'll try to do it tonight.
Thank you, Mr. King.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Off the record, Jeff? All right, we'll resume the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board. Our next case is Z24-24, Windy Knoll, 174 Golf House LLC, owner of 174 Golf House Road, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2204-00000300, who seeks variances from section 182-727B to permit a portion of the proposed fence to be installed in the front yard, and 182-727C to permit a 6-foot fence in a front yard area when a maximum of 30 inches is permitted. Property is on R1 Low Density Residential District and located in the 5th ward.
Good evening.
Hello. How you doing, Joy?
Good, thanks. So we represent Windy Knoll, 174 Golf House LLC, in connection with their application here tonight seeking variance relief to permit a fence within the front yard setback as shown on the proposed site plan for this project. I just handed out a series of exhibit packets and included as Exhibit A1, Tab 1 of your packets a copy of that initial application that was submitted. I do also have 2 witnesses with me tonight, Andrei Gulsurki, the owner's representative, and Matthew Nelson, the landscape architect who prepared the proposed fence plan for the property to help guide everyone through the proposal. Before I call my first witness, though, just as a brief overview, the subject property is 174 Golf House Road. It's in a regularly shaped corner lot that's located where Golf House Road intersects with Andover Road, and it's just across the street from the Marion Golf Course. The property is located in the R1 Low Density District, as are the neighboring properties to the northwest and south. The golf course across the street is located in the Institutional District. The property was previously improved by a prior owner with a single-family detached dwelling, a carriage house and pool, which is located in the legal front yard of the property. The improvements are all oriented so as the functional front of the property really faces the legal rear yard. The home setback pretty far off Golf Course Road and Andover Road towards the kind of narrowing rear of the property. And the driveway access takes you to the back of the property, which is the front of the house, and the legal front yard therefore kind of functions as the backyard, which is where the pool exists. The property has grade shifts and there's some steep slopes along the western and southern side of the property. There are also mature vegetation kind of along the entire perimeter of the property. The applicant has already received grading plans or grading permits from the township to further improve the property by, among other things, a residential addition, creating a safer driveway access to the existing dwelling, and additional landscaping. They're also going to remove that pool that's located in the front yard. Given the unusual layout of this corner property and its location across from what is a very active golf course that hosts major tournaments such as the US Open, applicants are here tonight seeking relief from sections 182-727.b and c to permit the installation of an estate-style fence within the front yard setback with a gateway access as shown in the plans, which we'll walk through shortly. The proposal will secure the property from the adjacent institutional golf course and is carefully designed to coordinate with the character of the neighborhood. The fence is designed to tie into the neighbor's existing fence of a similar style, and additional landscape is being proposed to soften the appearance of the property from the road.
And
This-
Julie, how high is the neighbor's fence?
I think one of my witnesses is going to better answer that than I do,
Okay.
but I think that we're proposing something similar in height.
Okay, we'll wait for you. Go ahead.
This proposal will not change the character of the neighborhood, as most of the properties in this area, particularly those near the golf course, already have similar style fences. Further, as will be shown, the landscaping proposed and the removal of the front yard pool will bring the property closer in line with the township's code. Finally, the applicants revised the fence plan initially submitted with this application, which proposed locating the fence just outside the right-of-way. It was just going to tie into the neighbors, which did something similar, but to mitigate the scope of the relief needed, they have kind of pulled this fence a little bit further into the property in a meandering fashion that the landscape architect with me will better describe than I just did, but with the idea of, again, having it weave through the existing conditions and mature landscaping that's there, and to pull it a bit further off of the road than what was initially proposed. And yet nevertheless, it is going to push into the front yard setback, and that is why we are here tonight, is hoping that you will grant us relief to allow for this proposed fence. If you have no questions for me that I can answer, I'll call my first witness.
We'll try to get it through the witnesses. Who's first? Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, all the truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
Andre Golsorki, Golsorki, and I'm the president of Halden House, which is the owner's rep.
And, can you explain your relationship to the applicant, Windy Knoll 174 Golf House LLC?
Sure, so we were retained as the owner's representative, and we handle project management for the renovation, the improvement of the property, and the landscape improvement.
So as a result, you're familiar with the property that we're here to discuss tonight, correct?
Yes.
And are you generally familiar with the zoning hearing board application that was filed with this matter as well?
Yes.
And directing your attention to Exhibit A1, I've included the application, and then I put a little green flag for everyone to flip towards the deed. Can you just confirm that this deed demonstrates that 174 Golf House Road, or Golf House LLC, I'm sorry, let me repeat that. Can you just confirm that Windy Knoll 174 Golf House LLC is the owner of 174?
It is the owner, yes.
And can you,
Julie, who's the managing member of the LLC?
so, I think we would be willing to provide that information off of the record. As I was just going to ask him, there is a family that's going to be living on the property. They have true privacy concerns, which is why they created this entity to own the property. There's press about the property, and so they have legitimate privacy concerns, and they themselves are not actually the applicant here. It's the LLC itself. But if you guys really would like to know, we're willing to kind of walk up and tell you. We just hope that it's not on the record.
Okay, let's go off the record.
And you obviously, as counsel, have the right to represent the LLC.
Correct, yes.
Julie?
Marked an illustrative aerial map. Does this show the property located at 174 Golf House Road?
Yes, it does.
And there's a green pin that shows the actual property, correct?
That's correct.
And is the blue kind of outline, or maybe purple outline, not sure the color, the property boundaries?
It is.
So referencing this aerial map, can you describe where 174 Golf House Road is located?
Yeah, so it is on the north side of Andover, west side of Golf House at that intersection. As you can see here, it's in a irregularly shaped property. The structure sits sort of back in the rear northwest corner of the property. We'll see in some other exhibits a little more detail about sort of where it sits and the spacing in what is the legal rear yard, but is like the functional front yard, and then the legal front yard, which is the functional rear yard. You'll see a pool that was part of the existing condition. And then what's not entirely clear here, but will be clear on other exhibits, the driveway comes in right at that intersection of Andover and Golf House.
So if you turn to tab 3, I pre-marked as Exhibit A3, excerpt of the township zoning map. Using this as a reference, can you confirm the zoning for the property?
Yeah, so it's R1 low-density residential.
And are the adjacent properties also in the R1 district according to the map?
They are to the west, to the northwest, and then to the south, but then to the east is the golf course, which is institutional, I believe.
And now if you turn to tab 4 of the exhibit packet, I've collectively marked a series of illustrative images as A4. Before just getting into each photograph in detail, can you just describe generally what the photographs show?
Yeah, so this is the existing condition of 174 Golf House Road. And so there's various shots here from the front, the back, and then also looking at its proximity to the intersection of Golf House Road and Andover, as well as the golf course.
And now you just explained generally using the first aerial, the existing conditions of the property, but is there anything else that would be helpful for the board to know in terms of how it's currently laid out and pointing to these images if helpful?
Sure, so on A4 here, this is the front of the home. And so, again, this would be the legal rear yard, but it's the functional front yard of the home. And this faces north. And then you'll see a shot over the back of the house looking at the proximity to the intersection of Andover and Golf House Road, as well as its proximity to the golf course. If we go to the next page, I believe there's a shot of the, yep, so this is a view from the golf course. This is the 15th hole. So that driveway that you see in front of you is was the existing access to the home, which is being modified and is permitted to be changed over to Andover for safety reasons. And you'll see the back of the house here. And again, this is what is the legal front yard is the functional rear yard of the home. In the next photo in the middle, you'll see where the steps were in the existing condition coming down to a pool that was permitted to be removed. And then the next shot is from the house, looking at that, again, functional rear yard, not legal rear yard, towards Andover.
And now if you turn to tab 5, we've pre-marked as A5, an existing conditions plan. Now, you don't have to go into this too much in detail because you just, I think, walked the board through that. You might have flipped.
Oh, sorry, it's,
There we go.
there we go, thank you.
But does this plan provide another kind of overview of the existing conditions of the property?
Yeah, this is a much easier view to sort of comprehend. So again, you'll see Andover to the south, Golf House Road to the east. The driveway that formerly would have come in at the intersection of Andover and Golf House, and then coming up to what is the functional front yard and front entrance of the property. What you'll see in all those hatch marks is modifications that have been permitted to be made, which is an improvement to that driveway, removal of the driveway off of Andover and Golf House, again, for safety reasons, and bringing it, coming in from Andover, removal of the pool that was in the functional rear yard. And then you also see in this some of the steep slopes that exist right behind the house that we wanted to be very sensitive to as we were sort of thinking about the modification improvement of this property, as well as a lot of the mature vegetation that existed that we did not want to disturb.
And the green that's shown on this plan is really the mature vegetation you just were talking about. Is that
That's correct. Yep.
So now I'll have you flip to the next tab, tab 6, which we've pre-marked as Exhibit A6. This is a grading permit plan set, and at the very last sheet is a license and inspection permit. Is this the grading permit plan set that you just referenced, which has already been approved?
That's correct, and it's been approved.
And if you flip to, I think, sheet 2 of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I'm not sure it's- Yeah, sheet 2. Does that just further show the kind of improvements that have been proposed and already approved for the property?
That's
And
correct.
what you had just kind of described with regards to the removal of the pool and the modification to the access?
That's right.
So now, we're really here to talk about a fence proposal, and our next witness is going to discuss that in further detail, but if we flip to tab 7, which we've pre-marked as A7, there's a series of photographs. Can you describe these photographs for the board?
Sure. So on A7, we're looking at, you're traveling north on Golf House Road, and right to your left is the driveway that would access, or formerly access 174 Golf House Road. And then just behind us in this photo is is Andover. And then you'll see it in this lower left-hand corner. Andover sort of intersects right there with Golf House Road. Here we are looking at the top, so we're coming, I believe that is east on Andover, this is west on Andover. And then you'll see across the way, the property that has access off of Andover has these stone piers in the right at the access of their driveway. And then coming down Andover to the east, you'll see that this is the golf course and that intersection with Golf House Road. Here we're traveling up Golf House Road, and there was a question previously about the height of the neighbors' fences. We'll see where the tie-ins are when Matt presents the plan from the landscape architect. Here in this one, this is a 5-foot fence that is 2 doors down from the property. And you'll see in the lower shot, to the left is that property that's in the picture up top. To the right, you'll also see fencing that is on a property across the way from that one. So generally, the properties that are surrounding this golf course have similar estate fences.
And is that further shown kind of in the final photograph?
That's correct, yeah. This is a continuance of that other property on the right-hand side
And so,
with an estate fence.
and do you also see that there's a fence kind of across the way on College Avenue in this area?
That's correct, yes.
And we didn't discuss it, but in the very first photograph of Exhibit A7, which is the actual neighboring property, do you know what the height of that fence is?
4 foot. And the tie-in to this is going to be up further up the property. It does not sit as close to the road, which Matt will review.
Great. And so, based upon your review of the township zoning map that we just went over, these properties that we were just discussing, these are also in the R1 zoning district?
That's correct.
Apart from the golf course, which is in the institutional district, correct?
That's right, yep.
And have you discussed with the owners why it is that they're seeking a fence to be installed on their property?
Yes.
Can you explain for the board why it is that they are seeking a fence to be installed here?
Sure. So there's sort of, 2 sides of this. One is the privacy, security for the family, as well as in sort of protection from the golf course. There's lots of events there, lots of crowds that come to those events, and they are uniquely sitting right at that corner of Golf House Road and Andover, and right across from the 15th hole. Very close proximity to the golf course. And then also from a usability and safety perspective, again, this is the functional rear yard of the property that sits to Andover and to Golf House. And so providing some fencing for usability and for safety for their grandchildren that are in that yard is also a consideration.
And have you spoken with any of the neighbors about the fence proposal that we're here to discuss tonight?
Yes, all of the surrounding neighbors, immediately surrounding neighbors.
And what was their feedback that they provided?
They provided letters, which I believe we're providing here, showing that they are not opposed.
Okay, and those letters we've included at tab 8, which is, we're going to have marked as Exhibit A8, is that correct?
That's correct.
And Andre, are these all the adjoining property owners?
Yeah, so it's immediately to the east, immediately to the west, to the east, and then across the street on Andover.
Okay.
I have no further questions for this witness.
No. Okay. Jessica?
I just wanted to clarify, you testified that the neighboring properties have both 5-foot and 4-foot fences, correct?
Yes.
Are there any 6-foot fences currently in the neighboring properties?
I believe there's one that is further down on Golf House Road.
How much further down?
5 or 6 properties down.
Okay. You also testified that the family wanted privacy from the golf course, but just to confirm, they saw the property before they bought it and did realize it was across from a golf course, correct?
Yes, they understood its proximity to the golf course. I think in recent years, the Open has been at the Marion Golf Course, and they've just announced recently that they are having several of them in sort of succession there. So it's a consideration that might have been a little bit different than when they originally purchased the property.
Okay, I have no other questions.
Ed?
That was a question I had too, is on the issue of how many opens have not that frequent, I just wonder.
Every 5 years, I believe, but there are there are every 10? I think that they have.
They wish they would have gotten them every year.
2013, 2030. That's the gap.
Gotcha. There are in addition to the Opens, there are many events that are at the golf course, and I mean it becomes a more significant destination each year. It's a very popular course. I mean, even yesterday, 104 degrees. The golf course was packed as people were preparing for an event that's coming up in a few days.
Okay. But not the kind that
No.
park on your front yard.
No, but I mean, it's hard to say sort of as these events get bigger, sort of what that overflow looks like and how people, behave.
Okay, I'm having difficulty with the exhibits. Do you have an exhibit that shows the fence location?
Oh, that's coming up, I think, in a moment.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll wait for that to come.
Well,
No questions? I'll wait.
yes.
Do you know how long the house has existed on the site? Approximately.
1920, it's the early 1900s.
And how long has the golf course been there?
Don't know the answer to that.
And do you know of any previous fences that any previous owners have put up in all that time? In over
At that
100
particular
years?
property or the adjacent
In
properties?
this current property that we're talking about?
I do not.
I found it very difficult to follow the A7 exhibits and where they are, how close they are to the subject property.
So in A7, that is the immediate neighbor to the east.
So are these are all A7, and then there's several pages.
Oh, sorry. So the A7 first page
Okay.
is the immediate neighbor to the east.
And that's the 4-foot fence?
That's correct.
Okay.
On the, let's go to the,
Oh, this is across the street.
oh yeah, then immediately across the street, on the next page,
Okay, so this is the second page of A7.
that's correct.
Okay.
And this is immediately across the street, and this is where the driveway for 174 Golf House is going to be coming in. To your left is the neighbor on Andover, and to the right is where you'd be accessing this property.
Okay, and this image was provided to show what?
That there is a neighbor across the street with a structure in the front setback.
And is that at the top page in the center, just this what looks like a low stone wall?
Yes, and then it has higher piers that that flank the actual driveway.
But it's not a 6-foot high estate fence, right?
It is not.
Okay. And then the third page of A7?
Well, we-
And then this is
Do you
the,
know how high that fence is?
Do you know the height?
Stone wall.
I don't, I believe the piers themselves are 6 feet. I don't, because I think it's got a little bit of an angle to it. So I don't know how high that stone fence is, but the actual piers, I believe, on either side of the driveway are 6 feet.
Okay.
Then as we go, the next page, the third one, this is the next neighbor down to the east. So if you go to the first page, we're looking at the neighbor immediately to the east. And then the third page, this is the neighbor to the east of them.
So we're still on Golf House Road?
That's correct.
Okay. So, okay.
And then this is the 5-foot fence, but then you see the driveway. There's the piers that are 6 feet along with the fence that reaches that 6-foot height. or the gate, I mean, sorry.
Okay. All right, now I know where that is. Okay. And then the fourth page?
And then the fourth page,
Okay, that's going up towards college.
that's right, and that's showing you effectively, if you look on the third page, and you see the gate and those piers, and off in the distance, you see a home there,
Yeah.
that's effectively a shot of their yard.
Okay.
And this fence surrounds their property to college and on the golf house.
And how tall do we think this fence
This
is?
is a 5 foot.
5 foot. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Billy?
So just a question, I'm a little confused, so in this exhibit A7, the testimony, I guess, on the first page is that the neighbor immediately to the east, just past the driveway, has a 4-foot estate fence. Is that going to be tied into this fence?
Yes, but not at the front of the property. So you'll see from the landscape architect where that fence actually ties in. It ties up further north up the property. And
You mean further up the existing driveway?
that's correct.
And then it will maintain a similar setback along the curved front property line? And what is that proposed setback?
So we're gonna-
From the property line to the fence?
Yeah, so I think my next witness is going to be better at explaining what the proposal for the actual fence is and how it ties in.
All right, then let me just ask a question. On the next page, I think it was being shown to us, although I don't discern any estate fencing, but we clarified that across Andover is a stone wall. But did you actually measure that? It sounded like you weren't sure exactly what the heights were.
I don't know what the height of the balance of that wall is, but the piers that are flanking the actual driveway are 6 feet.
And what about is there a fence that the wall goes?
There's not a fence.
circle around the property?
Not
Okay.
on that property.
So this picture was to demonstrate that someone across the street has piers around the driveway that you're using as the basis to justify consistency of a 6-foot high front yard fence?
So I think these photographs, and he can confirm what I'm about to say, but the general idea was these were street view photographs of the immediate neighborhood so that you could get a sense of what it currently looks like. And then we were going to show you what we were going to propose and maybe flip back to these to explain how it would coordinate with that. But since we haven't even gotten to kind of explaining what's being proposed here, this was just to give you a sense of the existing conditions of the property and really what's kind of next door right now.
So consistency with other estate fences in the area is to come, the evidence on that?
Correct, yes.
All right, then I'll wait. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? For Andre, Jessica, Ed? No. Yes? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Nelson will be my next witness.
Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And please state your full name and the capacity in which you appear before the board tonight.
Hi, Matthew Nelson, Nelson. I am a landscape architect. I work for Jonathan Alderson Landscape Architects. How's that? Is that good? Thank you.
Oh, hold on.
Read the exhibits.
So I'm just going to direct your attention to Exhibit A9. We've included a copy of your CV. Is this an accurate and current statement of your credentials?
Yes, it is.
Can you just briefly describe what your educational and professional background is for the board?
Absolutely. I've been practicing professionally as a landscape architect for 12 years, and I have a Bachelor's of Science in Landscape Architecture from Temple University.
And you are licensed in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, correct?
That is correct.
And have you ever testified as an expert witness before a municipal board or the courts of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Yes, I have.
I would like to move to recognize Matt Nelson as an expert in landscape architecture.
Okay, do you have any questions? Any questions or discussion from the board? And it shall so be. Matthew is an expert in landscape architecture.
Are you part of the design team for the proposal which we're here to discuss this evening?
Yes.
And in what capacity did you oversee the preparation of the plans and associated materials related to this application?
As the landscape architect on the design team, we were in charge of designing the entire site layout, including the driveway, the patios, the hardscape, the walls, and all the landscaping.
And have you visited the property that's the subject of this application?
Yes, I have.
And now directing your attention to the plan that we have marked as Exhibit A10, can you identify this document for the board?
Yes, this Exhibit A10 is called Site Plan L001. This was the original site plan submitted with our application.
And just flipping through the sheets so that they understand what we've included, can you explain what sheet 2 was?
Yes, sheet 2 is the hardscape plan enlargement. Sheet 3 is L503 hardscape details. And sheet 4 is L506 hardscape details, all part of the original application.
And now, can you just, probably flipping back to sheet 1 is easiest, provide an overview of what the initial fence proposal was for this property?
Yes, so the initial fence proposal was, you can see in blue on the site plan, and it was located just behind the right-of-way line, which is 50 feet in front of the building setback line, or the front yard setback.
And was this designed to tie into the neighbor's fence?
Yes.
And did it also propose to kind of bump in a little bit further where there would be a gateway access to the driveway?
Yes, the fence is consistently offset from the road, except for where the driveway entrance occurs, the new driveway entrance occurs. And in that place, the fence bumps back to 25 feet from the street.
Which exhibit are you referring to now?
This is Exhibit A10.
Thank you.
And so, skipping to kind of sheet 3 and sheet 4, can you further describe kind of the style of the fence that's being proposed here?
Yes, so if you look at sheet 3 in this exhibit, we're looking at an elevation drawing at the top of this plan. This is a black estate fence, steel. You'll see the piers where the car is at the driveway gate entry.
This is still Exhibit A10, and it's sheet 3 and 4. They're the hardscape details of the initial plan that was submitted.
Yeah, so this sheet just shows the style of the estate fence to scale. It shows the view from an illustrative view from the street at the driveway gate. And you'll see the brick piers and the driveway gate and the fence in the elevation along the top of the plan. You'll also see in the bottom left of L503 a plan view depicting the 25 feet offset from the edge of the road where the fence and driveway gate are located. And the bottom right of the plan is an illustrative detail of the driveway gate itself, which is also black steel to tie in with the estate fence.
And so you've referenced that this is illustrative, so this is not necessarily the specific style, but it is being proposed to coordinate with the neighbor's fence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And was this style kind of being proposed as a result of the types of fences that are in the neighborhood?
Yes, this style is appropriate to the, architecturally to this property and to the area and to the neighboring properties, yes.
And now, since this application was submitted, was this initial proposal, which is shown on sheet 1 of Exhibit A10, modified?
Yes, it was.
So I would like to direct your attention to the next tab, tab 11, which we have as Exhibit A11. There are 3 sheets here. The first sheet is a site plan dated July, I think I have the wrong date potentially. July 18th, 2024, and it says diagram A. The second sheet is another site plan with the same date, and it has some green renderings on it. And then the third sheet is a comparison site plan, which is diagram B. It also has the same date on it. Did you oversee the preparation of these plans?
Yes.
And then quickly, I am going to move you back to this, but turning to tab 12, I pre-marked Exhibit A12 a series of illustrative images. Did you also oversee the preparation of these images?
Yes.
And Julie, thank you for putting together such a nice exhibit package. Very easy to follow.
So, flipping back, sorry guys, I am flipping you around. Back to Exhibit A11. Does the site plan that's shown on sheets 1 and 2 show the current fence plan for this project?
Yes, it does.
And can you describe for the board this updated plan, referencing the site plan, and then to the extent it is helpful, flipping to the next tab and discussing the illustrative images?
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is Exhibit A11, Sheet 1, Site Plan Diagram A. This represents the new location of the proposed state fence. It is, as you can see now, it is set further back from Andover Road and from Golf House Road. It is, as it moves to the east, the fence sweeps even further north to just about at that 50-foot setback line, and that's where our fence on our client's property would tie into the neighbor's fence to the east.
And was the siting of this updated fence dictated based upon any of the existing conditions that are located on the property?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a few things in the siting of this fence. There's a lot of existing vegetation along Andover Road, so we're trying to save as much of that as possible. The client and our office is interested in protecting that vegetation, and that vegetation is already providing somewhat of a visual buffer from Andover Road. So the new fence location sort of weaves itself through that existing vegetation in such a way that it, is not requiring us to remove any trees or any large shrubs. And on top of that, we are proposing additional landscaping in that entire frontage along Andover Road that will help to sort of screen this fence in a way as well.
And this might be a good time to flip to the next tab, which was tab 12, Exhibit A12. Are these kind of illustrative perspectives of what the property would look like from the street line after the installation of the fence?
Yes, they are. Yep.
And can you just describe kind of where you're standing and what you're looking at for the board so they understand, kind of where they are on the property and what they're looking at?
Definitely. So we're looking at Exhibit A12, Sheet 1. The top left view is right basically at the intersection of Andover and Golf House Road. The view on the top right is where we're sort of moving to the west along Andover. The renderings on the bottom of the page, we're moving even further west on Andover. So you can see there's a lot of existing vegetation, as I mentioned. There's a good handful of evergreen trees and large evergreen shrubs, and there is a handful of large deciduous canopy trees in that front buffer already, which we are proposing to save.
If you flip to sheet 2, can you just describe for the board what this is showing?
Yes, so Sheet 2 on Exhibit A12 continues the views from Andover as you move west along Andover, and we're inching closer to the new driveway entrance as part of this new project. So in this view, on the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, these are just incremental steps as you're heading west on Andover, looking north toward the house.
And finally, we have sheet 3, where we have another series of illustrative perspectives. Can you just describe what this shows?
That's correct. Sheet 3 on Exhibit A12 shows perspective renderings at the new driveway location off of Andover. And you'll see the gate, the driveway gate, and the piers, and the proposed fence in these views.
And is this kind of style that you're showing illustrative of what the idea is of what would be proposed, or is this the precise style that's being proposed?
This is illustrative of the idea of the style. This captures the idea of the fence. This is not an exact replication of the specification of the fence.
But is the proposal to have a somewhat open, and we've been calling it an estate-style fence?
Yes, yes, it is. In this particular style of fence, the void space in these fences is about 80%. The pickets are about 3/4-inch pickets. So it, visually, the intention is for between the landscaping and where the fence is located on the property, it's meant to sort of fade to the background.
And flipping back to Exhibit A11, we included this third sheet, which I kind of called it a comparison diagram. Can you just explain for the board what this shows?
Absolutely. So this diagram, site plan diagram B, shows the original proposed fence in question, the location, which is 11 feet 6 inches off of the road, right behind the right-of-way line. And it also shows behind that the new fence layout location.
And was this just prepared to kind of show what modifications were made and how the fence was pulled off of the road further upon evaluating the current site conditions and where it could be sited?
Yes, it was.
So are fences permitted in the R1 district?
Yes.
And they're, according to 182-727C, they're allowed to the rear of the building line, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The solid fences are also permitted to be placed along the rear and side property lines?
Yes.
And does the code also allow fences to be along a secondary street frontage if it's a corner lot?
Yes.
But unfortunately, the code for us in this proposal prohibits the erection of fences, walls, and retaining walls in the front yard of any lot, tract, or parcel of the land in the township. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so as a result, we're here to request relief to allow for the installation of a fence in the front yard as depicted on the fence plan that we have here at sheet 1 of Exhibit A11. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And now, you just mentioned that the relief is being requested from, or you didn't mention this, but I kind of did, that the relief is being requested from Andover and I would say and/or Golf House Road. It is technically a corner lot. It's at 2 intersections. Technically, I think one of them would maybe be viewed as a secondary lot. We're not really sure here and we don't have a determination, which is why we are allowing you guys to kind of make that determination as to what would be potentially needed in this case. Technically, the code suggests only one of the front yards on a corner lot would be required, but here, as we've described, the functional front yard is the back of the lot, and this is the rear of the lot functionally for this property. So we're requesting across the whole way to make it in an abundance of caution, basically. So are there unique physical circumstances of the property that preclude strict compliance with the requirements of sections 182, 727B and C of the zoning ordinance?
Yes, as previously discussed, the site is a unique shape. It sort of narrows as you head north. The existing house that's being renovated is to the north of the site. As Andre mentioned, the front yard for the township is functionally the rear yard of this property. They used to have a pool in this property in the rear yard, which is the front yard per the township. The important thing to note is the original driveway that was basically at the intersection of Golf House Road and Andover, as part of the planning process for this project and what led to the grading permit plans that were approved, we went through an extensive study of changing where the driveway comes in. And that we did that for safety reasons, just coming in on that intersection was not ideal. It's just this is an awkward intersection where Andover and Golf House Road come together.
Yeah.
And with the existing driveway is like right there. And so there's cars coming from different directions. There's sort of blind corners. It's just not an ideal location for a driveway. So as we studied it further, pushing it west on Andover, which is a much quieter street.
Narrow road.
Yeah, is where we put it, so. There's also existing steep slopes on the site, and this new driveway is sited to work with the topography of the site. And if the fence was placed beyond the setback, as is required, the fence would have to cross over the driveway, and it would make the function of the gate, and it would have to cross the driveway way up the driveway, which is just not ideal functionally for this property.
So is this part of the hardship argument?
So this is explaining, I asked him to explain what's precluding the strict compliance, so he's explaining all the kind of features of this property that kind of constrain where you would be able to place, a functional fence on the property, and, these are all elements, I think, each of the things that he's talking about.
The new driveway that the applicant's choosing to put in, and now suggesting that they're trying to avoid steep slopes and they need to plot the fence in a location because of their brand new driveway that they chose to put in. And would the same considerations that you're suggesting now have applied to the old driveway? And how so?
Yes, they would. I think with the front yard being functionally the rear yard of this property, the backyard of this property that they will be using, as Andre mentioned, grandkids, and it's the back of the house that faces Andover Road. So the idea of putting the fence 50 feet from the right-of-way line into their functional backyard, something that we're seeking to not do. So.
But did they not put their new driveway in their functional backyard?
They did, but they did that for reasons, as I previously stated.
What were the reasons, I'm sorry, for the driveway? Because you think that it's better to put a driveway on a narrower Andover Road than to put it into a fairly wide open Golf House Road?
I would say, in my opinion, the width of Andover Road in this case, I don't think applies to where the new driveway location is going. We pulled the driveway away from an awkward intersection where people are constantly sort of flying around the bend, and it's just I don't think if you would have designed this property today, you would have put in my opinion, you would have put the driveway where it is today. I think you would move it to
You're qualified as an expert on landscape design or landscape architecture, right?
Yes.
But in traffic too, and view corridors and rights of way and all that stuff?
So can I chime in? He also, as a landscape architect, is a planner. So you go through the planning process, and the municipal planning code does actually provide that planners and landscape architects can submit plans in the same capacity as an engineer, and because they do planning processes, it gives them a level of expertise in terms of where you would lay things out and where you would access the site. So his understanding of, the multiple accesses or the multiple kind of that where Golf House Road and Andover comes together, the way in which there is movement there, the ability to, see when you get in and off of this property and what would be a safe place to enter and exit is something that planners would, know about more, or have more training in than the
So you-
average person.
You want to qualify him then for this?
I think it would be, if you're willing to qualify him as a planner, I think that would be useful based upon his background and expertise, given the questions that you're asking, yes.
Yeah, because I didn't see anything on the CV that went into traffic or anything like that.
Well, I'm not asking to qualify him as a traffic expert, because we're not doing that, I'm not looking for that. We didn't do a trip assessment or anything, but I think just in terms of the planning and layout of property and area and a neighborhood, and where safe access would come onto a property from the neighborhood is something that a planner would have expertise in.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. You want to come in the back with us? Let's adjourn to the meeting of the Haverford Township Zoning Hearing Board. All right, Julie, where were we? Have some questions?
So I think we were just kind of talking about some of the reasons why this property is unique and why the fence is being cited here because of those unique conditions. Do you have further things to add?
Yeah, I would just reiterate what was discussed earlier by the owner's representative, Andre. This property being zoned residential right across the street from the golf course, which is zoned institutional. This property being a corner property, the functional rear yard of this house, which was built many, many years ago, and this client is choosing to, renovate that existing, within that existing footprint, is the front yard in the eyes of the township. So for all those reasons and others, that's why we're seeking to do this.
And the modification to the fence location was thought out and cited there largely as a result of the existing conditions and the mature vegetation that's on the property, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And this also allows for safer and secure driveway access that prevents kind of the crowds and the kind of concerns about activity that are occurring where there's an intersection and a golf course, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And were these circumstances created by the applicant?
No.
So the steep slopes were there and the mature vegetation was there when the property was purchased, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And when the property was purchased, the location and kind of orientation of this property was set up as it currently exists?
Yes.
And the location of this golf course also makes it unique and different from another kind of residential property that would be located, with all residential neighbors, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And while it is correct that they are proposing this change to the driveway access to the property, that is being dictated by real security and safety concerns based upon the corner location of this property, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And were they restricted from where they could place that driveway because of the steep slopes and existing kind of conditions that are located on the property?
Yes.
And so there was, like, for example, consideration of placing a driveway towards, what is this? Is this the west?
West, yes.
The west side of the property, but that is not possible because of the steep slopes that are located there, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. To get, if the driveway was located along the west side of the property, the slope of that side of the property to get to the front of the house would not be ideal or safe.
And so then it had to connect into the existing driveway in order to get around the existing dwelling, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's kind of sweeping up in order to avoid the mature vegetation that's existing and located on the property, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But it was moved kind of further towards the road as much as possible to preserve the existing kind of functional backyard of this property,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so then when you place in a fence to attempt to kind of cordon off the backyard, which would be permitted if this was more normally laid out as another property would be, a backyard or rear yard fence would have been permitted, correct?
Correct.
But instead, it's not permitted here, and you want to make sure that the fence is going to avoid the existing mature trees, correct?
Yes.
And also not cross the driveway in multiple places so as to diminish or undercut the functionality of access to the property. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there also a level of concern because of the golf course and the crowds, some level of concern about, people parking on their property that could have raised, concerns as to where they might want to place their fence as opposed to like right around a house?
Yes.
And, and is it in your opinion that this modification by moving this fence off of the front yard, an effort to minimize the scope of relief that would be required because this no longer is running across the right-of-way but being placed further up onto the yard?
Yes, that's correct.
And are there other features about the fence and the estate style of the fence that were considered in order to comply with the rest of the code, which does permit fences?
Yes, yeah.
So the proposed height of the fence is in line with what would be permitted otherwise under the code, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And in your professional opinion, would the installation of this fence as proposed have a detrimental impact on the character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located?
No, I do not think it would have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood.
And will it impair the appropriate use or the development of the adjacent property?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Will the installation of this fence impair the appropriate use or development of the adjacent property?
No.
And in fact, this is designed in order to tie into an existing fence that's located on the neighbor's property, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And is the fencing style that's being proposed here similar in style to the adjacent properties fences, which are shown in Exhibit A7, which are the street view photographs of the neighboring properties?
Yes, the proposed fence is consistent with the existing fences in the neighborhood.
And again, what we showed in the plan was illustrative, and therefore, is it your understanding that the owner of the property would be amenable to conditions that would require the fence to coordinate with the neighboring property's fence?
Yes.
And in your...
So the estate, typical estate type of fence?
Yes.
Okay.
And in your professional opinion, is the proposal consistent with the character of the neighborhood?
Yes, it is.
I have no further questions for this witness.
Okay. Yes, Jesse?
Let's see. On Exhibit 11, page 1, where this was the hybrid showing the new location of the fence, is there a fence on the page left side?
Yes, there is.
Is that existing or is that proposed?
That's an existing fence.
How tall is that fence?
That fence is 5 feet tall. It's a chain link fence.
And there's no plans to change it?
A portion of that fence, I'm going to say, the first 100 feet off of Andover Road is very much engulfed in existing vegetation, so we are not going to change that portion of the fence. As you move further north, where it opens up a little bit more, we have access to update that fence.
And so there's been testimony that the neighbor to the east has a 4-foot fence and that the tie-in would switch to a 6-foot fence. How important is the 6-foot height? Would they accept a 4-foot height to match the neighbor?
I think the importance with the height has to do with security. So if it's a 4-foot fence that could be easily climbed over, I think that would be a challenge.
So the fence on the right side to the neighbor. That's a 4-foot fence all the way the length of the property?
Yes, that's
So
correct.
couldn't somebody hypothetically jump the 4-foot fence twice and gain access to this subject property?
Somebody could do that, but they would have to be, jumping into the neighbor's property and then into this property.
So, I mean, I can understand the desire for the gate set up. I just can't see the absolute need for the 6-foot high fence. I don't have any other questions.
Bill?
So I do have a couple questions. I'm looking at page A11, page 1 of Exhibit A11, which is your hybrid design. Shows the original and the, or no, I guess it's just the new, it's
Just the new,
revised.
yeah.
I'm sorry. So there appears to be 2 gates, and we've talked quite a bit about the driveway gate, but it looks like there's going to be a gate for the old driveway location.
That's simply a manual double gate to allow for lawnmower access and landscaper access to the property. So that gate is not an automatic gate like a driveway would be. It appears exactly as the fence, but it can be opened for maintenance access.
For vehicular access?
No, for like
So
large
how-
lawnmowers, I would
How
say.
wide is the gate?
It's a double gate. It's each side of the gate is 4 feet, so it's 8 feet total.
So what, the landscaper would pull up the old driveway and park on the front yard? How are they getting the lawnmowers in through that gate?
Well, there's a couple ways that it could happen. They may end up actually coming through the new driveway gate. That is a scenario that would happen. There's also, we like to provide maintenance access, not just a single gate, because you never know if there's, some sort of, something that's bigger than a small lawnmower needs to get through there. So, but we're not proposing, this is not, the existing driveway location is not a driveway, it'll be grass.
Understood, but I think somewhere it said it can afford vehicular access, or you can drive on it. So again, how are they going to use that gate? They're going to drive their lawnmower down the road and then turn in there? Is that what you're contemplating?
No, I mean, the landscapers would likely just come into the main driveway.
Okay, so again, so this is just a backup for what? I'm just trying to figure out.
So the landscapers could also pull onto the grass off of Golf House Road and use that secondary gate. We're just providing a secondary gate that's just manually accessed with a lock.
Is parking allowed on Golf House Road? You know?
I'm sorry, I actually didn't hear what you
Is
said.
parking allowed on Golf House Road there?
Along the street.
Probably
Yeah.
not legally.
I'm not an expert on.
I don't think it is. And so the question again is, you're leaving this old driveway conspicuously unvegetated as far as all the other front yard. And you're putting a gate there, and you're going to leave the curb cut as it currently exists? Is that true also? You removing the curb cut?
I'd have to refer to the grading permit plans to confirm that. So there is no existing curb along that road, so it would just be restored to grass.
Yeah, and it's reinforced turf? What does that mean?
It is reinforced turf, which is natural grass. It has a grid system beneath it for sort of structural capacity. If in the occasional case, a maintenance vehicle or something along those lines needs to drive on it very occasionally.
So the reinforcement is to bear the weight of vehicles.
That's correct, yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about the gate design?
Sure.
You have introduced photos of other gates, and I think you've testified that adding this gate would be consistent with the characteristics of the neighborhood. Can, in one of these pictures, I think it's in A10, no, where is your,
So the street views
Yeah,
are at
okay.
A7?
yeah, second page of A10. We see a gate that looks different. Third page, I'm sorry, compared to the gate on the fourth page. And can you explain, I mean, I'll say one thing and then you can sort of weigh in. The depiction of the gate on the third page, is the bottom third of that gate solid?
The bottom third of that gate is solid, yes.
And can you identify examples of other gated properties in this area that have solid, whether it's 5%, 10%, whatever, other than estate fenced gates? Are there examples of partially solid gates?
We don't have examples of that specific request available here. This gate and its style and its architectural style is, in my opinion, consistent with a gate you would find in this neighborhood.
But you don't have any examples?
We do not have examples that show an exact match to our designed gate, no.
And if our approval were conditioned upon using an estate fence-like gate as depicted on the fourth page, the applicant would be okay with that?
Yes, the applicant would be okay with that.
I don't have any other questions, thank you. Ed?
Yes, I'm trying to look through here, and I'm going to exhibit, I guess it's 11-3.
Okay.
And you show the two different fence locations. Did the first fence location, did you design that location?
Yes, I did. We did.
Explain, so there was no township official that suggested you needed to change it, or you just decided, why did you decide to change it on your own?
Well, as we looked closer at this site, as we designed the project further, and we examined the existing vegetation on the site, we determined it would be best to pull it further away from the road to protect that vegetation.
And did that also take into consideration conversations with me, which I don't want to get into further then because I don't want to destroy attorney-client privilege, but there was a consideration of the fact that the township code, doesn't allow for fences in this front yard setback, so this also, the movement of the fence would minimize the scope of relief that would be required to afford the reasonable use of the property. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so the only fence line we're talking about now, and that you're asking for approval on, is the one that's labeled on 11.3 as updated proposed fence line.
That is correct, yes.
The other one is no longer applicable and will not even be considered or not considered part of this hearing tonight.
Correct.
Okay? Then we got a lot of things about the fence is going to be like this and not like that. I want to narrow it down here so we know exactly what you're going to do. You said, is the fence going to be black?
Yes.
So it's going to be a black fence. Is it going to be made of aluminum?
No, it's going to be steel.
Steel?
Yeah.
And I think when we resumed that, that Matthew mentioned that they would be willing to accept the condition of approval or approve that it matched the neighboring fence, which is an estate-style fence. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, we don't know which neighbor, because it's chain link.
Yeah, you're right. So maybe you look at the exhibit.
Clarified, so this is what we're talking about. And you're also, the question would be, it's going to be 80% open, so we're not going to have a steel fence that's less than 80% open.
Yeah, correct, 80% open.
Okay. And 6 feet is your minimum, the max, the size you want, and that's, nothing lower can be accepted?
If you want to talk about it.
Yeah, can we hold on for just a
Go
moment?
outside, yeah, sure. And, Julie, how about if we do the school board decision
That would be,
while we do that?
if
So-
that works for you guys,
It'll only
I think
take 2
that
minutes.
would be great. Makes it more efficient for you guys, I think.
Okay, so I'm not trying to do this, but close the record. Close the record.
Was the record. Why don't we go off the record?
Okay,
Own it, and then
we're gonna go off the, not, Jeff, we're not going off the record entirely, we're going off the record in this matter. And while we're off the record in this matter, with respect to case Z 24-23, the school district of Haverford, and I won't read the rest of the description into the record unless someone specifically requests that I do so. I would ask Jessica, are you prepared to vote? Ed? Bill, are you prepared to vote? Jesse, are you prepared to vote?
Yes.
And Jesse, would you please take that decision?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with regards to case Z 24-23, I would vote to approve the requested relief with the following conditions. One, that rainwater will be managed as approved by the township engineer and land development. Two, the project will be completed within 18 months and in accordance with the notes of testimony.
Bill?
I agree.
Ed?
I agree.
Jessica?
Agree?
And so do I. That application is approved 5-0 with those conditions.
Thank you very much.
Sorry to keep you guys. How you doing, Rocco? All right. Good night.
go off the record now.
Let's start it. Much as I'm tempted.
Yeah, I think, to probe this question about the distance from the edge of the road back. It's really hard to read, but this says 25. This says 11. Totally not to scale. If this is 11, so 50, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why this is. Yeah. Well, you mean the way the house is? But they're not changing. Yep. I'm I was just gonna leave after this. Are you really? Yeah. We'll tell Jim to do it. They're either gonna get party status. One more.
You guys already ready for us?
All right, Joel. Yeah. We'll go back on.
Okay, I think the last question that was just asked was whether we would be willing to sort of compromise and vary the height of the fence that was currently proposed to be 6 feet, because that's what's permitted under the code. And talking about what the neighborhood fences are, we realize what the immediate neighbor on one side is, but the other fences in the area are 5 feet in height, and there's one kind of right next to that immediate neighbor, which you can see in Exhibit A7. Let's see, on sheet 3. I think sheet 3 shows kind of a good example of, the style of fence that we're looking for, and that they would be willing to agree to a condition that it would be the same height and style as this generally, which would be, I think, 5 feet in height is that top. This one might curve, but it also makes it that the gates are 80% open all the way to the ground. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. That answers my question. The final question I have, did you do an estimation of how much, it's a 1.8 acre site, is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you know how much is estimated to be disturbed through this whole entire project?
The entire project, we'd have to just check the disturbance on the grading plan. This one here. Present pervious. I apologize. The grading plans were prepared by the civil engineering firm on this project, and I do not have that number readily available for you.
Okay, well, the reason I asked is I'm just trying to make sure, because you said you had a grading permit. The question was whether or not it was going to be over an acre of disturbance, and that would require an NPDS construction permit.
That's correct. Yeah, it's not, it's under an acre.
It's going to be under an acre?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
If you go to Exhibit A11, the third sheet that shows the former proposed fence and the new proposed fence, the formerly proposed fence had a dog leg to the left side of the page that went from the line of the fence to the building setback line.
Yes.
The new fence does not show that. Are you requesting to install that dog leg still? Or is that no longer part of the fence plan?
No, we are no longer requesting to do that, and that fence would just continue straight to that property line on
Okay,
the west
so
side.
and that's where that chain link fence is that you were talking about?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. And then my next question, in Exhibit A10, on page 4, the last page, detail number 2, there's a drawing of a 6-foot-tall aluminum fencing that is a much denser fence pattern. Where is that going?
That's along the northern property boundary and a portion of the western property boundary. That's also similar in its opacity, so around 80% void space on that. That's just a thin wire
And
black
that's in
fence.
your true rear yard?
Yes.
And then my last question is regarding the landscape rendering. So I know there are some trees and shrubs that exist that you're keeping, but in your estimation, how many years until the landscape looks like it does in these renderings?
So as part of the landscape design that we have created, there is going to be relatively mature new plant material being put in. So trees are going to be sized up. Evergreen trees and shrubs will be sized up from, maybe a typical smaller plant. So this client is willing to invest in more mature plantings on day one. And that's what we're doing here.
You would confirm that these are day one renderings?
Yes, I would. Yeah, a lot of what you're seeing in the perspective renderings are existing conditions, and we're really sort of editing that and plugging into that existing landscape with mature material.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ed?
Nope.
Bill? Jesse? My questions have all been answered.
Okay.
Okay, do you have anything else you'd like to add, Joel?
So I think that I'm just going to do a really quick closing, since I know you have another application on after us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job. Good job up there.
But as has been discussed, this is a fairly unique property for R1 district. It's a very strange shape. It was renovated and improved many, many years ago to have a layout that is different from what you would expect on a standard lot, where the rear of the property is really the front and the back is the rear. It's on a kind of a corner where there's an intersection. There is a stop sign that kind of exists on Andover, and then people kind of speed up. And so it's dictated kind of changes to improve the safety and security. The property is located across from a golf course that is a very busy golf course. It's a famous golf course that most people are aware of, and it's only getting more tournaments. It's on a regular basis. All of the properties that are kind of adjacent to the institutional district do have currently estate-style fences, and this owner of the property does have real concerns about the security of the rear yard and is proposing a fence that kind of will be placed and set back off of the road, but will allow for it to fence in what their functional backyard is, in a way that kind of mirrors the area, but also is largely very, very landscaped, so that it is not obvious that it is a fenced-in property, so that as you continue into the residential district that doesn't permit normally a front yard fence, it won't, scream, this is a fenced-in property. The idea is that it's going to look like a very, lovely landscaped property that provides for a security that is different from, because of its location on a corner across from an institutional district. And for these reasons, we are requesting that this board grant relief for the new updated plan. We, again, as were just mentioned, are willing to kind of modify the height so that it kind of mirrors the neighboring properties and allow for this kind of estate-style fence at a slightly lower height than what was there, but that would still actually function in a secure manner. Thank you.
Thank you, George. With that, I'll ask if there's anyone present that received certified mail that wishes to testify, anyone present that received regular mail, any other resident of Haverford Township? Any other questions? No? You're good, Joel? All right. With that, we'll close the record on this case, and the decision will be rendered at our next regularly scheduled meeting on August 15th. Good night. All right. Our next case is Z24-25, Leonard Country Club, owner of 950 Westchester Pike, Havertown, PA, DC folio number 2209-0271500. Oh, Julie, please tell George Brosman I said hello. Joel, tell George Brosman I said hello. 0271500, who seeks variances from section 182707B to permit 270 parking spaces when 327 are required. A variance from section 182718B1C to permit a front yard landscaping strip of less than 30 feet, and a variance from section 182602C4 to permit the construction of a storage shed for the pool within the 100 front yard setback. The applicant also requests an interpretation that the parking requirements need no relief, as they constitute the reduction of an existing nonconformity, in that applicant is increasing the number of available parking from 255 to 270. Property is institutional and located in the second.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I need to disclose that I am a full bondholder, charter, or club member, and so I recuse myself from this case.
Okay, then you're out. Jim, we're a 5-member board. There are 4. 2-2 tie, you would lose. If you want another member to step back, they might, or would you prefer to proceed with a 4-member board?
I think we'll proceed, right? Yeah, we'll proceed.
Okay. Okay, Jimmy, you're on.
Thank you. Board, please. My name is Jim Byrne, and I represent Lanark Country Club. I remember we were here a couple months ago, I think November or so, trying to put a big net up. And but we're here today, tonight on a much different basis. We're here tonight seeking what we think is minor relief from the zoning ordinance. In fact, we're even improving some of the problems that, might be there now since this club was, started about 120 years ago. So we're going to increase the parking. We are going to put in a new swimming pool. The swimming pool is 70 years old. And when we do that, we're also going to repave the parking lot and make the driving range work in a way that cars can get by more safely and people can get in and out with their clubs and things more safely. So I have 3 witnesses I'm going to call tonight. And I'll try and go as quick as I can. I won't belabor the opening any longer than that. I just tell you that what we're seeking here are renovations and safety type additions, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Let me call my first witness?
Yes, please.
Okay. Call Chris Wilkinson and John G. and Julia. They're both going to testify to similar things. I don't know that we're really going to need both of them, but it might be a good idea to swear them both in. One's the president of the club and one's the general manager.
Okay, however you want to proceed.
Okay, can you guys stand up and swear you in?
Stand at the podium. So I have to do it one at a time. So, Chris, right?
Yes,
You first. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
Christopher Wilkinson, and I'm here as the general manager of Lanark Country Club.
Okay. Now you, John. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear, please?
John P. Giangulio, Giangiulio Jr. I am the president of Lanark Country Club.
Okay. Jimmy?
Okay, thank you. John, let me start with you, okay, if we could, and ask you to keep your voice up. There's a microphone there, but I think these are on video now, so we do need to make our voices up for that. You're the president of Lanark Country Club?
I am.
Okay. And for how long have you been so?
Since December 1st of 23.
Okay. You're familiar with the application we have here tonight?
Yes, I am.
And I want to show you the document has two parts, okay? And do you want to mark these for me?
Tim, do we have these exhibits?
I do, yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Well, A1, is that okay? You and collectively A1?
Tell you what, we have marked as Exhibit A1. Then it's a couple pages, and it's a purports to be a deed. Is that the deed for Apple or for Lanark Golf Club?
Yes.
All right, and you're familiar with the application we're here for tonight, is that right?
I am.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about what we are here for tonight, what we're here asking?
Certainly.
Not in terms of relief, but what it is you want to do to the club.
Yes. So Lanark Country Club has put together what we're calling a master campus plan. And the main objectives of this master plan are to really do 3 things. In replace and improve deferred maintenance infrastructure, enhance the area, as well as increase and improve our safety on the campus. The infrastructure is really, so much of it's deferred maintenance. It's long overdue. The pool, as Jim mentioned, is 70 years old. The parking lot has not been redone in over 30 years. Quite frankly, I'm not sure how old it actually is. We're really catching up on a number of these items for many years of things being continually pushed off. And even the best repair and maintenance program eventually has to become a CapEx program, a capital expenditure program where you replace things. Secondly, we feel that we absolutely going to be addressing safety throughout this side of our campus. We want to redo the lighting throughout this zone of the campus. We want to put in landscape islands into the parking lots to improve our traffic flow and our safety, as well as add beautification and create cart pathways and walkways for safety. These pathways and walkways would be designed to improve not only the safety for pedestrians, but also reduce the amount of walking in carts that go through our parking lots. And we would put in a new drop bag area for golf bags, which would stop cars from driving by our pro shop, by our first tee, and by our locker room, and thus eliminate cars from driving in this area that's heavily walked by our members and guests. Finally, if we're going to do all this work, we should be looking to enhance these facilities. The strong point here is we want to better serve our membership and to make sure that our members stay satisfied and stay members, because it's important for us to maintain this club as a very healthy organization, not just for today, but for 20 years from now. And those enhancements are, if we're going to redo the pool, we might as well make it a little bit bigger and add some of the new features that people want today, such as a kids' entertainment zone with splashing water features, add another food and beverage building, because quite frankly, our current building just doesn't have the capacity to serve the membership. It's just way too small with a fryer and a grill. It just can't serve the number of people who are at the pool. Increase some services for our rackets membership. Right now, they have a single bathroom. We would like to add men's room and women's room and a changing area for the folks. Expand our driving range because we need more grass. Just simply the use of the property. You need to be able to move around the range so that the grass can regrow as you utilize another section. And then we would tie in a new large putting green in the front lawn of our building and try to continue to push all of our practice and entertainment area into the front of the building. Again, all of these things are about just better serving the membership and making sure they stay satisfied and happy to be members at the club. We're looking to increase the parking count, and we're not looking to make any changes on our golf course.
That was going to be my next question to you. Was there going to be any changes at all to the golf course?
No.
Okay. So all the changes that we're talking about, like the pool, while it might not be in exactly the same footprint, will be in the same area, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the driving range will be in the same area, just expanded some, so that you can have more grass area?
Yes, we would reduce the size of the parking lot on that side, but add more greenery to that area.
Can you tell us a little bit about, what amenities are offered at the club, such as you have golf, obviously?
Yes, primarily, we break our zones of operations into the golf course, into the pool, into our rackets areas, and then our food and beverage operations, which make up several different zones, but it's those operation centers.
Okay. And let me ask you this, with respect to, you have like a banquet type facility there, right?
We do have a ballroom, right.
And years past, it used to be used for weddings. Is it used for many weddings anymore?
No, it's quite frankly too small a facility for most weddings today. It only holds about 220 people. Okay. Most people are looking for do much larger than that.
Okay. So if you had a wedding, it would be a smaller wedding and it would be few and far between.
That's true. We have very few, and we don't go out and solicit for outside events. We only have things coming in through our membership.
Okay. Now, I'd like to ask you, I mean, we're fortunate in this area, and I think the board is aware of this, to have a number of very nice private golf clubs in a general vicinity. Is that right?
Besides our own?
Yes,
I know.
Yeah. But I mean, there's Marion, correct?
Yes,
And there's
yes.
Rolling Green.
I'm familiar with those.
Waynesboro.
Yes.
Right. So why is it important for you to keep the amenities up to speed? You said it's very important to the members.
It's a very competitive world. We have great clubs in the area, and half of our membership are Haverford Township residents. But you need to stay competitive in this world. Right now we have a waiting list. We're happy to have a waiting list, but the times can change, economics can change, but we need to keep our membership healthy and happy in order to maintain the fiscal responsibility we have as a membership, as well as just keeping membership full.
Okay. And the membership is full now?
Yeah, we have a full membership.
Okay. And you're making these changes for the full members that you have, not for a
Correct.
prospective.
That's correct.
Member drive or anything, right?
No member drive is anticipated at all.
Okay. typical day at Leonard Country Club? If I were to go over and play golf, okay, in the morning, how does a
So
typical family spend their days?
the facilities are really overlapping. A typical member is going to drive over, they're going to go play golf, they're going to come inside, they're going to sit at one of the areas to have something to eat, and they're likely going to hang in another area, or they're going to go over to see their family at the pool. So you really have one car coming in, and I understand how the parking count works, where they're counting every zone as a separate area in the count. But the reality is, our members come in a single car and use multiple facilities.
And how many, do you know how many parking spots you have now? We're going to add parking spots, correct?
We are at
255.
Sorry, did you? Okay. And we're going to add 14 more spots?
I believe it's 15.
15, okay. And, okay, and we're going to enhance the landscaping in the parking lot as well, right?
Right. We, as much as anyone, want to maintain the buffers to parking as well.
And how about lighting? Are you going to do anything to the lighting?
Yeah, yes, the entire electrical system on that side of campus is at least 60 years old. So we need to replace all of those lines. If you're going to do all that kind of work, you're going to bring up to speed the lighting program. You're going to meet the code for per the township requirements, and we're going to put in LED lighting. It's going to be much more energy efficient. We're going to get a brighter illumination and spread, and it's going to just make those areas safer for both walking and for driving.
And where these improvements are going to be located is not near any residential property, right?
No, that lighting is all within the campus.
And it'll be designed according to the township specifications so that it shines down only on the area that it's supposed to and not all.
Yes, Planning Commission actually made that point very specifically to us.
And you had mentioned that you want to improve some of the safety in the parking lot. What were you talking about there for pedestrians in the parking lot?
So right now, the parking lot is just a sea of black pavement. There's no islands. There's no management of traffic flow. New codes would require us, and we're happy to install parking islands, so we're going to organize that flow of the traffic, as well as put in trees and other beautification elements to improve the look of the campus, quite frankly.
Let me ask you this. The club is bounded by Westchester Pike and Manoa Road, correct? And among other places.
Amongst other places.
But where we're talking about now is really, they're the two intersecting roads around the east.
Yes, that's correct.
And tell me about what exists in terms of buffer zones.
So we have certainly an amount of square footage between our parking zones and those roadways, as well as we keep and have continued to plan over years extended buffer zones of arborvitaes and other trees that have been in that area, which we absolutely want to maintain.
Okay. And what's important to maintaining it?
Well, it's both for the internal beautification, so people aren't looking out on the roadway, as well as people aren't looking in at our cars being parked or our activities.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. Question?
May I proceed with cross-examination?
Are you seeking party status?
I filed on July.
The board does not accept written party status. You can ask for it this
well,
evening. Yeah.
I asked for it this evening.
Okay.
I filed it July 8th with.
Yeah. And any objection?
I just like to have a few questions, and I do have an objection for the record.
Okay.
I have some, so I can't cross-examine.
He objected to your request for party status. I want him to make an argument or ask questions to be able to establish that, and then we can figure out whether it's entitled or not.
And I'm sorry, I forget your name. I recognize you from the last hearing.
Michael Ignazio,
Mike Dignazio.
an attorney, office and media for 52 years.
I got you, Mike.
I mean, can I question your client, Mike, as to
Well,
standing?
I guess what's the objection?
The objection is that the house is located the house that the client of Mr. Ignazio is located at least some 600 feet away from the area where this work is going to take place. In that 600-foot zone, there are two fairways, 9th fairway and the 10th fairway before you even get to any parking lot or anything over there in this facility. In my contention, I have some law that says that you must have a discrete interest. This could take a second to read this to you.
Jim, would you step up to the microphone?
Sure. I'm sorry, I told them to do it, and I didn't. I also want to apologize too. I had a meeting in Springfield, and I left my coat in Springfield tonight. I'm sorry about that. But in order to become a party in a zoning hearing, you have to have a substantial, direct, and immediate interest in the claim sought to be litigated, right? And the courts have found that a substantial interest is one in which there is some discernible adverse effect to some interest other than the abstract interest of all citizens in having others comply with the law. A direct interest requires a showing that the matter complained of causes harm to the party's interest. An immediate interest is something more than a remote consequence and centers on the causal nexus and proximity between the action complained of and the injury to the party challenging it. The requirement that the interest be immediate is also met where it falls within the zone of interest sought to be protected by the statute or constitutional guarantee in question. Finally, the rationale underlying the requirement that the party be aggrieved or adversely affected by the action at issue is to ensure that a legal challenge is made by the appropriate party. It would be my argument to the board that the party that we have here tonight that's asking for legal standing has a lawsuit against the country club at this point in time. He does not have any interest in this litigation other than to make it hard for us to do the changes and the safety improvements to our club. His interest is no different than anyone else in Haverford Township. There's no direct effect on him. There's going to be no work over in that area, and we would suggest that there's just not a causal nexus between their interest and what we intend to do, and therefore party status should be denied.
Mr. Nate, your response?
He's an adjacent landowner. He lives at 606 Country Club Lane, and by the terms of the municipality's planning code, he has party status.
Well, would you agree that, as Mr. Byrne cited the law, that he would need some substantial interest to be a party in the matter?
No, I would say that he's an adjacent landowner. He has the right to be a party under the municipality's planning code. And as far as
How far away is the property from the subject renovations?
from the foundation,
No. From the proposed renovations that the club is seeking relief for this evening, how far away is your client's property from that?
I think that the proposal is along the entire 600 block, borders the entire 600 block of Country Club Lane.
How far away is your client's property from the subject pool and parking?
I haven't seen where the parking's going to be, so I can't adjust.
So then what is your grievance then if you don't know where the parking and or the pool is located?
The grievance is that this is as he testified to, a third stage or third phase of a master plan. And he's indicated to you that the master plan is going to go forward and do many other things that's going to affect everyone along Country Club Lane who borders on the property.
But I didn't hear any testimony of anything further other than at this point just the pool and the driving range and the parking.
Well, if you let me cross-examine, maybe I'll bring it out on the gentleman. Is there going to be another phase? He says, as I understand it, he said this is the third phase of the master plan.
Presumably, if he needed additional relief, they'd have to come back before this board for that.
Well, and we're going to end up with the same thing? That he's going to say that they don't have the same
I guess it would
party
depend
status?
I guess it would depend on how close it is to your client's property at that point.
I don't believe that, the record will speak for itself, but I don't believe that there's any testimony about the third phase.
Tell him.
Wait, Jim.
Nothing says the driveway does what?
I wasn't prepared to testify, but I'll say from our perspective.
You're not sworn in yet. Yeah.
Well, tell me.
Your dad's representing.
I don't understand why zoning notice
everyone's allowed to speak. It's just a question of whether you have party status and the ability to cross-examine
Yeah,
witnesses.
he's asking for a very specific legal right to. Yeah, there's public, that doesn't mean there won't be public comment at the end for all residents. This is just a specific question. So let me ask this. As an adjacent landowner, did your client receive notice of this evening's hearing? A registered mail or any type of mail? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Byrne, would you agree that there are actually two different types of standing as it relates to zoning hearing matters? And I didn't hear Mr. DiGnazio raise this, but I'll bring it out for purposes of the record, that under the MPC, while your recitation of the law is accurate, I do believe there is a lessened requirement for party status before the zoning hearing board. However, that does not mean, given party status before this board, that they're automatically entitled to party status before the Court of Common Pleas, at which point I believe your recitation of the law, specifically, that they have a substantial interest, and that interest has to be more than just speculative conjecture. It has to be more than just simply the requirement that the applicant comply with the law. So I would indicate for the board that I think, at least in the request for this hearing, I think he's entitled to party status, but I would, at least for the record, indicate, and I think you would make this argument, that that doesn't necessarily render the applicant, or I'm sorry, the party participant an automatic right to appeal a decision of this board.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but I also would stress that what the cases say are that whether he's claiming to be an aggrieved party under the MPC or he's claiming to be a party that's affected in another way, adversely affected, that they need to meet the standards of those cases. And I have the cases here if you'd like me to hang them up.
Certainly. Yeah, please. The board would like to take a break and review it.
Yeah.
After speaking with the board and reviewing the matter, the objection is noted. However, it's going to be overruled or allow party status, but recognizing that, one, party status before this board doesn't necessarily mean party status before the Court of Common Pleas, and two, like to keep the questions relevant to the application in hand.
I understand. Thank you. I guess you'd like to cross-examine, Frank?
Pardon? Yes, I want to cross-examine this. In your direct testimony, you indicated that this is the third phase of a master plan. Is that correct, sir?
No, I don't believe that's correct.
Well, what did you say is what portion? You mentioned the term master plan.
I did mention the term master plan.
Okay. And which phase of the master plan is this application before the board here this evening?
The application is what we're here for. There's pretty specific variances that we're here for tonight.
I agree. Move on. It doesn't. Go ahead.
Were there any two prior phases of your master plan?
No,
There weren't?
there were not.
You indicated that this is going to request a storage shed. What's the size of the storage shed that you're requesting? We have that.
Probably have that through another witness.
Pardon?
We'll probably have that through another witness.
Okay. And you mentioned there's full membership now at the club. What's the number of full membership?
That's
Relevance.
Pardon?
What's the relevance of that?
Well, the parking is based upon .2 parking spots for every car. You need 5 members for a parking spot. How can you decide this case if you don't know what the full membership is?
Well, they're increasing the available parking.
Pardon?
They're increasing the available parking, not decreasing it.
I understand that, but I just want to know what is the full membership so we can determine what is their need to to expand. You know how much they have to expand us, you know the number of full members.
But they're expanding,
This is why I would object to the standing, because I think what this is going to be used as, this hearing, is as a fishing expedition for the litigation that's pending.
well, this is gonna be kept to the application. So.
If they're increasing the parking, do you have any, I mean, you haven't received any notice of violations that, as of right now, you don't have sufficient parking for your membership?
We have not.
And your testimony was that you're not adding any members?
Correct.
Okay. And you're adding additional parking indicated, right?
Correct.
What's the hardship? If you don't know how many full membership is, how do you know what the hardship would be?
Well, I think they're in the early stages of, you know, their case in chief. I mean, I would let them get through their entire case in chief on the hardship argument.
So this gentleman doesn't know what full membership is.
He didn't say that.
Nobody said that. A simple question.
Okay. So, Jim's objection is sustained. Go ahead. Do you have any other questions, Mike?
This witness.
Okay. Jim, do you have any?
No, thank you.
Does the board have any questions for Chris or John? Jessica?
I do not.
Ed?
Yeah, the question I have is, can we define exactly why we're here tonight and what the case is that we're looking at? I know it's on the record. The pool, the parking, I don't know why there's increased parking. Was there something that, from the application, that generated the need for additional parking?
Just, I mean, go and answer that, would you like to witness stand? Witness stand.
I mean, I prefer the witness do it for purposes of the record.
John or Chris, can you answer that? We are looking for the variance because the storage shed intrudes the 100-foot setback off the road. We're looking because the parking that we would like to expand, sir, would be proposed to be along Westchester Pike in a zone that right now has a great big green berm. And you can see it's tree covered. I wish I could point to it a little easier.
I think we'll have that.
And our engineer would certainly be happy to discuss that, but we would be within the setback with that parking, similar to how we are all along Manoa Road.
So the parking is being put in and you're not asking to be reviewed to find out whether or not you can do that in the setback?
Correct.
Okay.
Our parking is actually going to reduce the non-conforming status of our parking.
Thank you.
Jesse?
Well, I also had questions about the storage shed, but if another witness is going to be able to talk to that, then I'll wait.
He'll give you the size and exactly the location.
And, I mean, can you answer why it can't just be at the 100-foot setback line? It seems like it would fit.
We have a current equipment building that's there in that zone today.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to put it right next to that facility and maintain the square footage for the pool and the use of the pool.
What is, it's labeled, oh, actually, so I'm referring to a plan that was in our packet, but I don't think it's been entered. So I don't know if that's going to be, mess up the record, but the plan.
We're going to move for admission of that.
Okay, I'll wait until, I'll ask these questions when the next witness comes up.
I have no questions. Who's your next witness, Jim?
I call Chris Williams.
All right, Chris, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
Sure. Christopher, middle initial J, last name Williams. I am with the engineering firm Bowman Consulting, formerly known as McMahon Associates. I am a traffic consultant hired with regard to parking in this matter.
Go ahead, Jim.
Let me just go through your qualifications.
Sure.
If I could, okay? You have a degree in engineering?
I do have a degree in civil engineering,
And where is that from?
University of Delaware.
Okay. Any advanced education after that?
I do not.
Okay. How long have you been practicing?
32 years.
Okay. Have you, do you do primarily traffic?
It's exclusively traffic work, which includes parking work as well. And over the span of my career is almost entirely spent representing developers, private developers that are applicants in land development matters, zoning hearing board matters, as well as I represent a number of municipalities as their appointed traffic engineer.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert in any court?
Many.
And where were those courts?
Throughout municipalities in Delaware County, many in Chester County, Montgomery County, Bucks County. Over the course of 32 years, I've appeared in many municipalities.
Process.
Just one quick question. Licensing? I didn't hear anything about that.
I do. I'm a licensed professional engineer in Pennsylvania.
Mr. Ignazio, any?
Unless there's any objection or discussion, my fellow board member will accept Chris as an expert in.
Thank you.
Where are you offering him, Jim?
As a
Traffic engineer.
traffic engineer parking, specialization in parking or
Okay.
concentration in parking.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Williams, you've been hired by folks at Lanark Country Club, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you were hired to do a study of the parking facilities there, right?
Correct.
Can you tell us what you did to generate the report that you generated?
Yes, certainly. So we reviewed the ordinance requirements for parking for the country club. Obviously have concluded, as has already been mentioned, that the parking supply does not meet the township's ordinance. And so we went a step further and looked at, sort of evaluated other methods to substantiate the adequacy of the parking on the site.
And did you prepare a report?
I did.
Yeah. This is.
I'll show you what I've had marked as Exhibit A2. Do you recognize that?
I do.
And what is that?
That is a letter from our office signed by me dated July 18th, which is the Lanark Country Club pool expansion parking evaluation.
And does that explain what you did in your study and how you did it?
Yes, it does.
And comes to some conclusions at the end?
Yes, it does.
Tell us a little bit about the basically walk us through it.
Certainly. So we know that the existing parking supply is proposed to increase by 15 spaces as part of the site improvements. So the site parking will increase from 255 spaces to 270 spaces, but even still, even with that additional parking, does not technically meet the ordinance requirement. So although the site does not technically meet the ordinance requirements, we don't believe that the ordinance-based approach is necessarily truly a representative method for calculating the real parking needs of the country club for several reasons. First of all, as a private facility, the parking needs of the club are limited by the established number of members. The ordinance parking requirements would also apply to public facilities, which may experience higher parking needs because as a public facility, there is no limit on the possible guest attendance. Another reason the ordinance approach may not be totally suitable in this case is the ordinance-based parking supply requirement assumes that each land use on the property attracts separate, discrete users to the site. This is a single facility, a country club, but it has a wide variety of uses on the property. In reality, and as has already been mentioned, in reality, most visitors to the site, members, will patronize multiple site amenities as part of a single combined trip. So for example, members may arrive at the site for golf, may also visit the pool, may also visit a restaurant, all as part of the same trip, all as part of the same parked vehicle. So, for a use like this, it would be helpful, and some ordinances do account for this, if the ordinance could account for that internalization phenomenon that occurs. That would be an internalization reduction to capture trips to the site that may use or visit more than one site amenity. So for example, even if a modest internalization reduction was assumed of, let's say, 20%, meaning if 20% of the site trips were to visit even one other use on the property, then the parking supply need for the country club would drop from 327 to 262, and that is less than the proposed future parking supply of 270 spaces. And then lastly, the ordinance-based approach assumes each of the amenities on the property experience its highest peak parking demand at the exact same time of the day. However, the various amenities on the site do not peak at the same time. For example, the golf course may experience its peak need for parking in the morning. The pool may experience its peak need for parking in the afternoon. The ballroom may experience its peak need for parking in the evening. So therefore, due to time of day fluctuations that will occur between the various amenities, not all of the parking spaces are needed for all of the land uses at the same time, but rather shared parking will occur, whereby time of day fluctuations will allow the same single parking space to be available for multiple on-site uses. So that's a real efficiency that can be realized with a mixed-use facility. So that is sort of a little bit of an overview. We also evaluated other methods to really assess the parking needs for this property. So we looked at a few different things. One, we looked at industry data. So we reviewed data from the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They have compiled parking data for a wide variety of land uses. One such land use is golf course, which includes many of the amenities that are offered here at the country club, including golf, restaurant, banquet facilities. Another use that so the golf course use within ITE does not specifically mention tennis or pickleball courts or swimming pool. So we looked at another ITE land use, that being athletic club. The ITE use for athletic club does specifically mention racket sports and pool, which are provided here at the country club. The ITE land use for athletic club also includes other uses that are not offered at the country club. So actually the ITE data for athletic club may actually be somewhat conservative. So we looked at the ITE data. So ITE offers peak parking data for a wide variety of uses. And when we look at the parking needs based on ITE for golf course and the peak parking needs based on ITE for athletic club, ITE would suggest that a use like this would require 203 parking spaces. So again, we're proposing 270 parking spaces in the future with the expansion. So we would have more parking than ITE would say is necessary. So another thing that we did, the country club is not intending to increase membership as part of the proposed improvements, as has been mentioned. So there really should be no increase in parking need. Therefore, in order to understand what the parking needs are of the site today, we completed a parking count at the facility. Now, what I'll tell you is we didn't have a lot of time to do the parking count, and we've had some rain as of late. So on the day we chose to do the parking counts, it did rain. So there's a large portion of the data that really is not representative of the parking needs. But at least at the beginning of our study, the weather was favorable, and what we found is on the day that we counted, the peak demand for parking was 179 spaces. So again, and then the later data in the day dropped off because of the weather. We're not hiding from that fact, just simply pointing it out. And at least for the data that we did find that we think is reasonable and accurate, the peak need for parking on the site today is 179 spaces on the day that we counted. And again, that is well below the 270 spaces that will exist in the future as part of the site improvements. And then lastly, we completed a comparison of another local country club, really just for informational purposes, to do a comp. We looked at Waynesboro Country Club in Easttown Township, and the reason we did that is that we know we were involved in a project for Waynesboro whereby they recently completed a reconfiguration of their site, including an expansion of their pool. So a very similar situation. So Waynesboro Country Club, and I don't have any data on Waynesboro, I don't know their specific membership, but Waynesboro is I think, reasonably similar country club. It offers all or many of the same amenities as Lanark Country Club, including golf course, pool, tennis, pickleball, dining, restaurant, banquet facilities. So again, very, very similar as a comp. So upon completion of the Waynesboro Country Club site improvements and pool expansion, that country club provides a total of 232 parking spaces, which is less than the future parking supply that will exist here of 270 spaces. And really just offer that for informational purposes only, helps provide, I think, some context. And from what we understand, Waynesboro as a similar country club, similar amenities, and from what we understand, it's operating successfully, and we've not heard of any parking issues since they've completed their improvement. So really that was it. I mean, you know, again, in conclusion, it is our professional opinion. When you look at maybe how the ordinance doesn't quite fit the unique situation of a country club with a mix of uses and the interactions that will occur between the various uses of usage of parking. And then also when you look at data from the Institute of Transportation Engineers, you look at a comp in Waynesboro Country Club, everything keeps pointing to the fact that we have sufficient parking on the site, not only today, but certainly in the future when we add 15 additional spaces for a total of 270, realizing it is not proposed to increase membership beyond what it is today.
I have one question. You had mentioned some numbers from the ITD, right?
Yes.
And did the numbers that you're talking about, they're applicable to country club or golf club?
So we looked at two different uses within ITE. We looked at golf course and we looked at athletic club to account for the pool and tennis courts and racket courts.
And within the definition of golf club, does that include restaurants and the other amenities that we have at Lanark?
It does. So the ITE definition for golf course, and again, their definition is based on the types of data that they've collected. I mean, all of the ITE data that we're using is not made up data. ITE has taken the effort of conducting their own parking counts at other facilities, and then they summarize, they give a definition to the land use based on the types of facilities that have been studied. And so the ITE definition for golf course specifically mentions golf holes, a tee, fairway, putting green, driving range, or may include a driving range, clubhouse, pro shop, restaurant, lounge, banquet facility.
I just have one question. You've referenced ITE. I know what it is. I'm not sure the board does.
Yeah.
And it is, can you explain what that is and how that, if it is, a resource that is typically used and accepted in your expert field?
Yeah, it is. So ITE stands for Institute of Transportation Engineers. It's an international organization based in the United States. And it's a resource for transportation engineers and planners, including parking professionals. And they provide data on a wide variety of transportation-related topics, including parking. And that data is used as a key resource for, in this case, site planning purposes. And it's specifically, ITE is specifically mentioned in many township ordinances as a resource that should be used. The Pennsylvania Department of Transportation requires transportation impact studies to be completed based on data from ITE, so it really is a reputable resource, and it's one that I've been using over the entire length of my career.
Thank you.
I have some questions.
Go ahead.
When you indicate in your report 4,320 square feet of restaurant space,
Yes.
is Is that broken down between the banquet room?
So that tabulation on the first page of our letter is really taken from the plans that were prepared by the site engineer. So there's another witness that's probably better prepared to speak to that.
Okay. How about your study? What day of the week did you conduct this study?
So again, the study, we looked at several additional methods to substantiate and support the adequacy of the parking. Unfortunately, due to the weather, the study, the count that we conducted is probably the least beneficial. So the study was done just this past Sunday, and if you'll remember, at around, I'll say 3 o'clock this past Sunday, we had an unexpected thunderstorm that moved through. So when that occurred and when there's lightning, everything shut down. But at least leading up to that point, we did get some good data.
And with regards to your comparison, Waynesboro, do you know what the parking ordinance was that Waynesboro had to comply with?
I do. I can tell you, so we're the traffic engineer for Easttown Township, which is why I had access to that information. Easttown requires about half the amount of parking for the use than Haverford does.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica? Ed?
Yeah, yes, I'm trying to define a bit down here. I see this is a very good chart you have here on page 105, township parking requirements. The restaurant, are you expanding the restaurant?
I'm not the right, I don't believe we are, but I'm not the right witness for that question.
How would you determine how many parking spots you did?
Yeah, so I really did not prepare that information on page 1, that tabulation. We took that right off the plans that were prepared by the site engineer. So the site engineer, I think, is the next witness. They can speak to that. I think that same information appears on their plans. And so I would defer to the next witness to speak to that.
Okay, I'll wait then.
Thank you.
Jesse?
We've spoken mostly about members. Does all this parking include employees? And if you're not aware, maybe the president of the country club is aware, if there's any increase in the number of employees due to the changes that we're talking about tonight.
Okay, first, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Don, Chris, you're going to come up and answer.
Yes, Chris.
He's already sworn.
We don't anticipate this plan resulting in more employees than we currently have and have had.
Do the employees park in the same spaces that we've been talking about, the
We
270?
have, yes, for the employees that work in the clubhouse and the pool, but we do have additional parking that's not counted in any of these counts on the other side of Steel Road for our grounds maintenance facility that are all of our employees that work on the golf course.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Okay, thank you.
And they have their own parking.
Great, okay. No other questions?
Anything further, Mr. Dizzy?
Can we go further for other testimony?
Well, I don't know, but I didn't know whether his testimony now sparked any additional questions you may have.
No, let's do what he testified to now.
Are you done with Chris?
I'm done with Chris, yes.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Can he be excused?
I would hang out for a little while.
I have one more witness. You want me to call that?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we know.
I would call Jim Bank.
And please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your full name and the capacity in which you appear?
I apologize, a little hard of hearing.
Your full name and the capacity in
James
which you appear?
Bannon, Bannon. I am the Civil Department Manager at Neve Newell. Business address is 900 West Valley Road in Wayne, Pennsylvania.
All right.
Bannon, can you tell us what your profession is?
I'm a licensed professional engineer.
Okay. And for how long have you been so?
A little over 24 years.
And want to show you what I'm going to mark as Exhibit 3. Okay, mind just putting Exhibit 3 on there, Exhibit A3 on there. And can you tell me now what Exhibit A3 is?
It is my CV.
Okay. And did you prepare that?
I did.
Okay. Give us a summary of what your CV.
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering Systems from the University of Pennsylvania, and I've been working in land development for a little over 24 years now.
And are you licensed in Pennsylvania?
I am.
And have you ever appeared as an expert in any matter concerning it?
I have, including at this township.
And did I ask you if you're licensed?
Yes.
That's all I have on
Go ahead, Ernie.
Mr. Okay.
No questions.
I think, yeah, did you ask him if he appeared before other boards? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's fine with me.
Okay. Unless there's a discussion or objection from any of the board members, we'll accept Jim as an expert in the area of civil engineering.
Now, Mr. Bannock, can you tell us what your role in this project is?
We are the site engineers.
And did you participate in preparing the application
I did.
of the zoning hearing?
Yes.
And do you know what type of relief?
I do.
Tell us what that is.
Sure. So it is parking. As Chris testified, we're decreasing an existing nonconformity, but still below the number of parking spaces required by the zoning code. We're seeking relief from the 100-foot front yard setback along Manoa Road for a utility shed and to decrease the required landscape strip along a portion of Westchester Pike below the 30 feet required by the code.
Okay. Now, Mr. Sorry, I forgot. Is it Boynton? Did I say that? Mr. Boynton had asked if the plan that he has before us is attached to the application. Is that plan prepared by you?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And did I have that plan marked? Did I have smaller copies with me?
It's actually A4. I marked Mr. Bannon's CV as A3.
Okay. So A4. So now, Jim, the plan that I handed you has Exhibit A4. Did you
Yes.
prepare that plan?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us, did you bring any other types of exhibits with you that might help us to understand
I hope so.
our application here?
Yes.
And what did you bring with you?
Should I just go through them? So what we're seeing here is the zoning plan that was submitted with the application. We've kind of already.
This is just a larger version of what we have marked as A4.
Yes, correct. We've already kind of gone through all the improvements with the other witnesses. One thing I'll point out is you can see the parking is more better defined. The drive aisles are better defined. There's proposed landscaped islands, and you can see some more clearly defined pathways for pedestrians and golf carts, in addition to the number of parking spaces. So this next exhibit is the same plan with just the 100-foot front yard setback shown in red and the 30-foot front yard landscape strip shown in green. I believe this shows how the relief we're requesting is consistent with what's out there now and matches the property.
Can you explain to us what you mean when you say it's consistent with what's out there now?
So this is just a little more zoomed in area, and I believe the next couple exhibits will answer that question. So this is, again, the same plan, but just more zoomed in. The existing utility building shown on the left, you can see it's currently a little less than 88 feet off of the right-of-way along Manoa Road. And the proposed storage shed we're proposing directly next to that, as was testified, is a little further away from Manoa Road. But generally, the same location.
So we're not increasing into the setback area any more than what's already.
Correct. It's further away from the road than what's out there now, and also, as you can see, on the other side of existing parking and screening along Manoa Road.
And what's the size of that storage shed?
I'm sorry, the size
The
of?
size of the storage shed?
Don't know that off the top of my head. The ADA parking space is 18 by 20, so maybe, I'd have to measure it. I don't want to give inaccurate testimony.
Are you able to measure the storage shed, the size of that too?
I'm sorry?
The storage shed, Jim asked you how large it was, and you said you weren't sure.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head. I can certainly get that the next
Do
meeting.
you have paper, well,
Sure.
you have the paperwork with you? All right. Jim, we're gonna go off the record for 2 minutes. That's important because it relates to how much the encroachment into the setback.
Give me 1 second.
I'll give you 2 minutes because I have to hit the measure. Jeff, we're gonna go off for 2 minutes.
Mr. Bannon, you were calculating the size of the proposed.
Yes, the proposed storage shed is about 27 feet by 16, so it's a little over 430 square feet.
And what would that be used for? You know?
I think that would better be.
Really would be used for storage of tables, winter storage for pool furniture, and really just miscellaneous storage. We have a great need for storage to operate a pool with as many members as we have.
So the storage shed is gonna be used for storage.
General storage of a lot of miscellaneous.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
While you're at the mic, what is in the utility building that's there, and how long has it been there? Because
That utility building is, to my knowledge, is an original building from when the pool was built sometime in the mid-1950s. And that is really the housing of our whole filtration system for the pool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, Mr. Bannon, let's get back to you. Okay, you've been to the site several times, correct?
Yes,
And tell us what exists on the site today. Is there a pool
there is.
there? Okay. And have you looked at the pool?
I have.
And is the plan that we have to replace the pool with a new pool?
Yes, it is.
And where will the new pool go in relation to where the old pool was?
So as shown on the zoning plan that was submitted, it's the same general area. It's rotated a little bit, slightly different shape, but the same location as the existing pool.
Would the proposed pool be a brand new pool?
Yes.
And would it be engineered to modern taste?
That is not something I do, but I'm sure it would have to be for the building permits.
And what else exists on the lot? Take us through what kind of buffer strips we have now.
So, if anyone's not familiar with the site, so this would be, again, back in the zoomed-in plan, Manoa Road's along the top. This line here is the existing tree line, and you can see at this corner closest to the entrance drive, this is about 8 feet, so it's about an 8-foot buffer. And you can also see it in this aerial image. It goes from 8 to maybe 15 feet around the corner, and it gets a little more on the Westchester Pike side. This is a view looking down Manoa Road, just a Google Street view, but you can see the existing buffer on the right-hand side, and this is just looking right at it. So this is the 8-foot buffer. It more than adequately screens the property, and this is very similar to what we're proposing around the corner on Westchester Pike, which is this is essentially standing at the corner, looking east, and you can see all these arborvitae here. They're going to remain, but this is the area where we are proposing, so the arborvitae would remain along the frontage, but we would eliminate some of the trees behind that to add the additional parking. And again, the proposed buffer, you can see the 30-foot here. So the parking encroach is very similar to what's out there existing, and we believe the screening will be adequate.
Adequate for what?
To screen headlights on Westchester Pike, obstruct views from the streets into the property.
Okay, right. Take us through, if you would, what renovation, we're going to have a pool, right? What else?
So the pool is the big one. And then we're improving some parking areas. You'll see on the plan, some areas are called improved parking and some are called new. Improved basically would just be mill and overlaid, and then new striping, cut in some landscaped islands at the ends of the rows. And this area of parking along Westchester Pike, that will be new. Again, designed to kind of mirror what's out there on the Manoa Road side, just continue that around a little further. And this parking lot, as was spoken to earlier, existing, it's basically just a sea of asphalt. There are striped parking spaces, but there are no landscaped islands. There's no defined pedestrian paths, so we're adding some sidewalks along the outside. Again, landscaped islands, and some of the wider paths would help to get golf carts out of the parking areas.
There's not going to be any renovations to the existing clubhouse, is there?
Correct.
Correct, that there will not.
Good. There will not be.
There was a question asked, I think, by Mr. DiGnazio, will the restaurant be expanded? The restaurant's not going to be expanded.
No, to my knowledge, it won't be.
So all of our renovations are going to be in that one area in the corner, correct?
Yeah, I went through this, I skipped over this earlier because we're on a time crunch and everyone kind of testified. But anyone who's familiar with the site, it basically goes from Manoa Road to the north down the township line to the south. And all our improvements are limited to the 10 acres right at the corner of Manoa and Westchester Pike.
Okay. And what kind of constraints are there within those 10 acres?
Well, there's a golf course, so essentially we're working within the existing street system. Obviously, we have to stay out of the PennDOT right-of-way. All of the setbacks are taking off of that right-of-way. The existing golf course, we're not touching. The tennis courts are remaining, so essentially we need to find a way to add additional parking spaces while also cleaning up what's out there now with really expanding into the pervious area that is the golf course and keeping all the impervious up in this corner here.
So there'll be no reduction of the pervious area at the golf course, right?
No, with the plan that was submitted, we are slightly increasing impervious, but we're not expanding further out into the golf course.
Okay. And so where will the expansion of the impervious be?
It's just the way the parking is configured. Some of these areas are being redone. It's kind of hard to compare a plan with an aerial, but basically it's all the parking areas and then this additional new parking space we're requesting along Westchester Pike.
Okay. Now, you heard some testimonies concerning the calculation of parking spots. How many parking spots are there now?
255.
And we're actually going to add to that?
Yes, this layout adds 15 spaces, including 7 ADA spaces.
Okay. The landscape enhancements in the parking lot, what will that consist of?
I'm sorry, the landscape?
The landscape enhancements in the parking lot?
So they're basically shown at the end of the rows. These areas here will be landscaped islands. We haven't gone into full design yet, but typically it will be one shade tree with some ground coverings, something along those lines.
And none of that exists now.
Correct. It's just asphalt now.
How about with some testimony about lighting being changed? Can you
So
give us some more information?
we would get into that during land development, but obviously the parking lot would be designed to township standards, which basically will have a minimum level needed in parking lots. We'll need to show that we're not throwing light off the property. There's no light trespass beyond the property lines. And all that will be handled during the detailed design during land development.
Do you know the distance between Mr. Dignazio's property line and where the construction will be?
I believe it's about 650 feet.
And did you measure that today?
I measured it today, but I'm trying to recall exactly. I believe it was a little over 650.
Thank you. And tell us a little bit about the enhanced cartways built into this plan.
Yeah, so there's not much to say at this point, other than they're counted as impervious coverage, and it would just be a better layout. You basically don't want pedestrians and golf carts and cars all mingling. So you see there'll be a planted buffer strip between the drive aisle and the cart path. It's just better for safety and for circulation.
Do you have any other exhibits that you wanted to show us that might explain?
I believe we went through them all.
Now, so let's sum it up. We need a variance from the ordinance requirement with respect to parking, right?
Yes.
This golf club has been here for over 100 years, correct?
1901, yes.
And presently it has how many parking spots?
255.
And we're going to add to those parking spots, right?
Adding 15 more, yes.
And with respect to where those parking spots are located, it's not going to be any more further into setback on Manoa Road than it is on Westchester.
Correct. Along Manoa Road, we're meeting existing. That may stay existing, just get mill and overlaid. We'd have to get into that, but we're not proposing to get any closer to Manoa. We're just requesting to carry that distance onto the Westchester Pike side.
And you do understand, you explained for us that you need to keep buffering on the correct?
Yes.
And what did you say was the buffering consist of?
Currently, there are some giant arborvitae which do a pretty good job blocking anyone who's driven by there. They do a good job of screening the interior of the property from the road.
And the trees that are there and that are in good shape are going to remain, correct?
Yes.
And then if there's any trees that are diseased or dying, they'll be taken out, correct?
If needed, yes.
And we'll be replacing those trees with other trees, correct?
Again, during the land development phase, there will be tree replacement calculations that we would need to adhere to the township code.
But our goal is to keep the property shielded as it is now, correct?
Yes, correct.
You won't be able to see out or shine lights out, and you won't be able to see in.
That's the goal. That's what the club wants. That's trying to meet the ordinance to the greatest amount possible. So yes, that's the intent.
And the other variance that we're asking, other than the parking, is the length of the buffer zone, correct?
The
length of the buffer zone, is that right? The width of the buffer?
Yeah, yes. The buffer is required to be 30 feet, and we're requesting that be decreased to match the buffer that's currently on Manoa.
And how much buffer will that still leave?
We're showing at the tightest part, which would be right near the corner, about 8.5 feet, which is a little more than it currently exists at the corner near the driveway along Manoa.
Okay. And then what's the last variance?
I'm sorry, what's
The
the,
last variance.
would be the 100-foot setback along Manoa Road.
Okay.
100-foot building setback,
And that's for
we're
the
asking to
sewer-
reduce
sewer
that to 92 feet.
That's for the sewer unit, right?
Correct.
And that setback will still be greater than the setback for the existing utility.
Yeah, yes, it'll sit about 5 feet further, 4+ feet further away from Manoa Road than the utility building does.
Now, you've reviewed the Haverford zoning ordinance, is that right?
Yes,
And you also are familiar with some different case law about variance, is that correct?
I am.
And do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty as to whether this project will adversely affect any of the public health, safety, and welfare in the neighborhood?
In my opinion, no. The proposed relief is interior to the campus, and it's decreasing what is out there now. I don't believe it will have negative impacts.
And in fact, will it be a plus?
It will be a plus to the club. Additional parking, I believe they're sufficiently parked now. So overall, I would say it's a positive project.
And you believe that a variance, considering the standards of the MPC, Haverford zoning ordinances, the Hertzberg cases, all those decisions, would be appropriate in these three areas?
I believe so.
And that's all I have.
Two quick things. One, if I may, sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Rick.
I saw a bunch of exhibits, or at least demonstrative pictures that were being used. Do you plan on admitting them in, or are they just purely demonstrative?
I would like to admit them in. I do need to get we have it on the JPEG. I do need to run copies of them to give you a small copy.
Okay. Is there any objection, Mr.
I'll give
Nicacio,
you-
to that?
yes.
And make sure you get him a copy. The second thing, and just gives you purposes of the record, I just want to make sure I understand. You went through the variances that you're asking for, but I read in the application that there's, as it relates to the parking, a request for, I guess in the alternative, a interpretation that because this is a non-conforming use, it's somewhat of a pre-existing or continuation of a non-conformity, and you're asking that because you're decreasing that conformity, that in the alternative interpretation that you don't need a variance. Is that accurate?
Yes, please.
Just want to make sure I understand it. Okay, thank you.
And we're actually really the same argument with respect to the other setbacks, because they really are not increasing any of the setback that's already established by the line, if that makes sense to you. Like there's already, the setback already what it is on Manoa Road, and now it's just going to be simply the same on Westchester Pike. And similarly with the existing utility shed and the proposed shed, the proposed storage shed will be set back even further than the existing utility. So in both of those situations, we're really not making I would submit that we're not making the variances any worse, or the condition, the non-conformities any worse. We're meeting or exceeding what we have there.
That's all I.
Okay. Mike?
Yes.
Yeah.
Specifically, sir, one of the variances you're asking is to permit the front yard landscaping to be less than 30 feet. You just indicated at one point it's 8 feet, but it's going to be 10 feet. What's the hardship that the applicant's asserting to knock down the front yard setback 20 feet?
Well, I would object to that. I mean, I don't look at this witness to ask about what the hardship is. I think that's the ultimate question the board has to find.
Well,
I don't know.
Can you answer the question?
Well, I believe the hardship in this situation is this is really the only area in this developed area of the course to add additional parking spaces. And to do that, we would need to reduce the width of that buffer while still maintaining the screening along the roadway.
Where is that on this picture?
Oh, I'm sorry. So this is the existing parking along Manoa and existing buffer. We're proposing to increase it this way, which would get rid of a couple of the shade trees in the back.
Along
Sorry,
Westchester Pike.
but maintain the arborvitae that are there.
So along Westchester Pike.
Yes, along Westchester Pike, right at the corner.
So you're not going to decrease the height. You're going to decrease the width.
Correct.
That's what you want to do, so that you can add more parking spots. Go ahead, Mike.
Also, in your testimony on direct, you mentioned land development with regards to the pool renovation. Is there an application having been made to the governing body for a land development plan? Or
No.
are you using it not in a legal sense, but in a technical engineering sense?
Oh, in both senses, it hasn't been made yet. We submitted a sketch plan application, which is part of the land development process. And during that review is when we were told zoning relief would be required. So we submitted the zoning application. We have not formally submitted.
And your firm previously was engaged by the club with regards to the construction of the pavilions, right?
Yes.
And did you make an application to the governing body when you went to?
There's an objection. There's an objection. What's your
What's my
objection, Jim?
Objection, not relevant. No relevant to all of that.
How is this relevant to the current case, Mike?
Well, this gentleman indicated that there is a master plan, and this gentleman is indicating another phase of what has been going on for the last 4 years on this site. I'm just indicating that, is this the first time that you, for all the work that you did at Manoa, the first time you made an application for a land development plan?
I would renew my objection to relevancy, and I would also note for the record that I believe that, and I do respect Mr. Dignazio as a good lawyer, but I think he's mischaracterizing the testimony that was been given earlier. I believe
I think the general manager and the president use terms that they're familiar with, that maybe they discuss internally, but, and Mr. Gignazio is referring to more formalized township proceedings, but that's just my impression. Go ahead, Ernie.
I mean, the fact that whether or not the applicant submitted prior land development plans, I don't see how that makes the application here or what's being requested any more likely or not. I mean, my recommendation would be, I think at least in that question, relevant to what previously had been submitted is not directly relevant to this application.
Okay, let's move on.
I have no further questions.
Okay, Jesse.
There's mention in the plan of a trash enclosure that's proposed. Where does that exist now? And is the proposed location any closer to either of the setbacks?
So that is shown in this corner of the parking area?
First of all, I guess, what is it proposed to be made of? And is it similar in nature to how it might exist today on the site?
Currently, Chris?
Go back to the overhead would be best. Sorry, I don't want to. Right. So the current trash enclosure is right here, and the main reason for moving it would be to create space for the new parking.
Can you describe it, you say right here?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I have my cursor, that's all, right where my cursor is over, which
It's at
is...
the corner, it's at the corner
Yeah,
of
it's
Westchester Pike and Manoa, approximately?
Generally at the corner, at the end of our parking, at our current parking lot.
And what is it made of?
It's just a cinder block enclosure with a double gate that closes, and it has our recycling and our regular trash container.
And in the proposed location that's shown on the west side, along Manoa and at the edge of the parking, is that, how are you proposing to
It
build
would
it?
be very similar, but we've thought it would be worth making it a little bit larger to add one more trash container. So it would be sort of a triple instead of a double.
I'm not clear why that isn't part of the requested relief, because isn't it an enclosure that's much closer to, we're talking about only a couple feet into the 100-foot setback. This is a building that's this is at 30 feet. So I'm not clear why this is not part of the relief that's sought.
So this, and Jim, I don't know if you're better to answer this question, but I think the current trash enclosure is in a very
Right about there, yes.
is in a very similar spot to the setback than the new one would be.
So is the utility building, and you're using the argument for the proposed shed that it's not any closer. So you're proposing to build a building that's for trash 30 feet from the road. Is there another place on the site that could be located?
I don't have a specific answer to that at the moment.
Because I'd be more worried about that than the storage shed. And I mean, the storage shed also seems like it could be slid to the 100-foot line, so I'm not really clear why that can't be at the 100-foot setback, but since it's just for tables and chairs. But my other question is, for both of these items that we're talking about, the trash enclosure and the shed and the existing utility building, with the existing arborvitae that was testified to, are these visible from Manoa Road or Westchester Pike?
Can you repeat your question?
Are the existing utility building, the proposed storage shed, and the proposed trash enclosure, are those visible from the public right-of-way on Manoa and Westchester Pike through the existing buffer?
I would have to look at it, but my general recollection is that it might be barely visible through the foliage, but not very clearly visible.
The existing shed is a little visible through the entrance drive.
And just one quick note about the trash enclosures. One reason to have them there is there clearly needs to be direct access for trash trucks to get in there. And by moving them in areas here where trash trucks would have to turn to get into it, that was our reason for keeping it here and there, is that trash trucks have a straight run in to get to the dumpsters in the easiest manner.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Ed?
Okay. I'm not hearing what I want to hear to make me understand what's going on. But you're saying you're increasing 15 parking spaces. Is it true or is it not true that the parking lot on Westchester Pike is a brand-new parking lot?
Yes, the one along Westchester Pike would be a new parking lot.
Isn't there 28 spaces in that parking lot?
There are, and that's to offset some of the ones we lose in the existing areas for.
Well, that is why you're here. You're here because you have existing parking that you're eliminating with your improvements to increase cart width, path, putting traffic islands, you're eliminating parking spots and you're moving them to other locations. Is that a fair assessment? I haven't heard that tonight, but is that a fair assessment?
Yes, I think that's fair. That's part of the project.
Is this proposed parking lot next to the tennis court, is that a brand new parking lot?
I'm sorry, we're talking about here?
It would be next to the tennis courts, says proposed parking lots 26 and 13 and 11. I don't know.
Yes, so here is existing, there's a drive aisle through there. Some of this area will be made into parking.
So there's a lot of manipulation of the existing parking. That's why you're here, not because you're doing any expansion to the restaurant. You're not expanding the swimming pool. Is it it said expansion for the first time under the traffic guy, but how big or much bigger is the pool?
Oh. And the pool is actually let's see, so the proposed pool is a little under 7,400 square feet. existing, I believe, is around 5,000. I'm not positive about that.
So that gives you a requirement to increase parking. But do you know how much parking would be needed to meet that requirement?
So according to the code, the pool itself, the new swimming pool needs 2 spaces per 100 square feet. So we would need 148 spaces.
Well, no, because you already had 5,000. I'm not taking away your existing pool, you had 5, and you were already pre-existing approved for that, and it was an operating pool.
Yeah, but that's not the way we were told to measure parking. We did try to figure this out because, for instance, we're including 1 space per 100 square foot for restaurant and dining. That's not changing at all. But, so, you're asking, I believe, would the relief still be needed if we calculated the parking just on additional pool space rather than total?
I'm trying to get it wrapped in my mind, the improvements that you're making, and what is it generating the need for additional parking spots?
So according to the
Anything I
club,
see.
they don't believe they need additional parking spaces. We were trying to get as many as
You do
possible.
according to code. If you increase the pool size, it says right here that a swimming pool has to have 2 parking spots for every 100 square feet. So if you're increasing the size, then that means you need additional parking. So if you were just doing the pool and coming here, you would have to increase the number of parking spots just for that activity, in my brain.
You think, you say we would or would not?
You would.
We would.
Because you're increasing the size, so you
Correct.
thing. But, so the only reason you're here, so in other words, that parking slot on Westchester Pike, in my mind, it's a self-imposed hardship because you're changing things within the site, and which makes you have the need for that additional parking.
Well,
Let me step in. The chairman mentioned something to me, and I want to talk to council at this point. And obviously, we have 2 residents here that have been here all evening and certainly want an opportunity to talk. There's reference to a lot of exhibits that haven't been made part of the record yet. My thought process is, if it's all right with council, given the fact that technically this board stops at 11 o'clock because the doors shut outside, and my suggestion might be, why don't we, I don't want to break yet, want to make sure that the 2 ladies here have an opportunity to talk, and then, if we can possibly pick it back up with this particular witness. But I think it might be a good idea to continue the rest of this, get the exhibit packet together so that we can at least see what's going on. Mr. McGargy's got some questions that I think he obviously needs some clarification to. I believe probably some of the other board members might. So I'm making that suggestion at this point, that I think it might be a good idea. Is there any objection to that?
But what again, is it continuing this hearing?
Yeah.
To your next month's hearing?
Yes.
You put it first?
Pardon me?
How about we put it first next time?
Well, it would be. Yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's the way the way that the agenda goes, but
And
it would be.
What's the day of August we're
It's
speaking
the
about?
15th.
15th of
Yeah.
August.
Yeah, July and August, this board usually meets twice a month, which is more than any board I know.
Yeah, we've been meeting 3
But we're
times.
only doing it once, I think, a month in July and August. But just a suggestion, I think it might be a good idea. I think the board's inclined to do it anyway, but.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, I'll come up from the shore on the 15th.
Yeah, I was, okay. So why don't, if it's okay, we're not closing the record either in your case or your case, so we'll leave them open, but we'll let the 2 residents speak, and then we'll close at that point and come back next month, if that sounds
No,
okay.
I have no objection if Mr. Gazio can't make it up from the shore.
I'm sure we'd all rather be down there.
So since you young ladies sat here all night, I want to give you the opportunity to speak before we continue the hearing.
Thank you very much.
So please come forward.
Okay.
Please, I need to swear you in. So
Okay,
please raise
fine.
your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
I
the truth?
do.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Please state your name and address.
My
for the
name is
record.
Elizabeth Hamilton. My address is 617 Furlong Avenue in Haverford Township.
And what would you like to tell us, Elizabeth?
I would like to say, looking at the plan that has been drawn up, the parking spots along Manoa Road they would have to take down whole bunches of trees. Nobody's saying that, but they would have to take down whole bunches of trees. And it does not go down smoothly to the road. They have them within, how many feet between?
You need to just address it, Elizabeth.
Oh, excuse me then. It seemed to me that they were putting parking spots in what is now a bunch of mature trees. I was really shocked and alarmed to see this. They're going to take down the pine trees along Route 3 that are behind the arborvitaes. I recall when they were going to sell the golf course some while back, that one of the reasons that the sale did not go through was because they felt that this golf course really provided a decent carbon sink for this area of Havertown. And to be taking down tons of trees to allow for parking spots, that their assessment said they need like 109 parking spots. They have 255. They don't really need these parking spots. It would just be to meet codes. There's no reason to put parking spots right along, almost up to the road. What I had written, now, did you happen to read my letter a memo that I sent to the, okay, because Marge told me that I had to read it into the
You could submit
record.
it now. You just can't submit it ahead of time, that's all. You could certainly submit it now if you'd like.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that it will make it much less attractive from the outside for people driving by. I said that this proposal for additional parking spots will affect the quality of life for all Havertown residents, particularly those in the Manoa neighborhood, who regularly pass by this handsome and gracious property. The proposed addition of parking spaces will necessitate removal of dozens of mature trees and large shrubs, and the parking lot will come down almost to the street. Even the landscape strip they promise will make the intersection of Manoa Road and Westchester Pike resemble a 7-Eleven store instead of a country club, a huge change for the worse for the feel of our neighborhood and for our property values. The loss of the tree screen, well, they say that they're going to have their arborvitaes, will also give passersby a view of the members bathing and otherwise relaxing, decreasing privacy and landscape beauty, and possibly the viability of the club. You will recall that some years back, the club considered selling their property to a developer, and that the sale was blocked in part due to the value to the community of the carbon sink that the club's grounds and trees provide. Compared with some other parts of Havertown, the Manoa neighborhood has already been substantially paved over. I wrote, now I don't know if they actually want this, hearing what people have had to say tonight makes me wonder, this was my impression when I looked at the plan from one of the zoning people in the office showed it to me. I said, please provide the club with relief from the requirements of section 182 707B and 182 718B. Their existing parking lot is seldom full. In fact, their guy who did the parking usage assessment found that they didn't even need the spots that they have now. I don't see why they should bring them up all the way up practically to the street. The second ward is not as scenic as like College Avenue or something. And I really value the visuals of having the trees there. I think it's quite important, and that's my my thing. I guess I give you this, maybe you didn't get it.
Well, if you
I
read
had
it, you know,
Yeah, you read it into the record, but certainly hand it up. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
we don't need the mark. Thank you, Elizabeth. Any questions for Elizabeth?
Yeah, can we have that clarified about the parking, please, along Manoa Road?
Wait, Ed.
Yes.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Wait.
I
You're,
don't have a horse in this race. I don't live
you don't
here.
want to speak
I
to it more?
support services.
Oh,
This is, I brought my friend along for.
okay. Bodyguard,
Tomorrow, sister.
bodyguard. Okay, now go ahead, Ed. But we'll
So
wrap it
just
up
to
with-
clarify, we're not proposing to take down any of the trees along Manoa. This edge of parking here as exists is where it's going to be after we're done.
It's only
How
along,
can you?
no, we're not doing that. It's only along Westchester Pike that they're proposing narrowing the buffer, not along Manoa Road.
If you put up the plan, you'll see that it comes like almost,
Well, you can see this parking
But
space here.
It's not,
it
we're
won't
not,
come up any closer than it is now?
No, you may
I'm telling
be,
you,
it's a
we're
little,
not-
it's a
wait,
little
I'm
confusing
telling you.
because this dark line is the
wait,
right of way.
Jim, we're not going back and forth with residents, okay? They can pose their questions to the board, and if we want to redirect them to you, then that's how we're going to go. These situations only devolve into misunderstandings and disagreements, so. So I will tell you that the proposed plan is to narrow the buffer along Westchester Pike, but not along Manoa Road at all.
Is that accurate?
That's correct.
That's really good news to me. However, I do value the pine trees that they're saying, oh, this vegetation can be taken out. It really is a.
Not along Manoa Road.
But, I mean, I'm talking about along Route 3 as well. If you look at the photographs, it really will be a whole different look to not have those trees there.
Well, what they had said is that they're going to leave the pine trees. The arborvitae, not, Elizabeth, we have to talk to one another.
I thought
So
they
along
said-
Westchester Pike, what he had said, I believe, and I'm going to ask you to confirm that I'm correct, is that the arborvitae will stay.
The arborvitae will stay and the pine trees will go. That's what I heard.
All right, well, we'll have to clarify it at the next hearing then, because it's midnight, and I'm getting tired. And I think my entire board is getting tired. I know you guys are, Mike looks tired. And he's the most energetic one of us all.
Good evening.
Good. Thank you.
So,
I need to bring back, Mr. Williams.
I think are you guys okay with the parking counts and things? Jesse? So, I don't think so, Jimmy.
Okay.
But thank you for staying. And thank you. Are there any administrative matters we need to address?
Minutes to approve.
All right, well, with that, this case is continued to our August 15th hearing.
Thanks for the extra
I
time.
didn't mean to shut you down, but that's on. Administrative matters, Jessica?
We have minutes from our April 25th special meeting as well as our June 6th meeting to approve. And after review by Bill Rhodes and some comments that were accepted, I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the minutes are into the record. Anything else? All right, then we're adjourned. You're welcome.